This is a clouds weather alert. Meteorologist Casey Cloud back here with you in the Weather Center. It's 12:27 p.m. on this May 7th, 2026. We have a new severe thunderstorm warning, as we were alluding to earlier. This potential coming into Gatston County, and that's what we're seeing right now. So, we have the tornado watch, those rotational parameters, potentially favorable for some of that here in the Florida Big Bend, but it's a situation where we do have a severe thunderstorm warning as well. So we're just going to continue to monitor things very carefully here in the Weather Center. Let me go ahead and put some of those severe thunderstorm warning safety tips up here as we're looking. We'll pull that up in the corner of the screen right now. You can see here some of this just moving into Gadsden County right about now here. As we're looking, as we're tracking, that's Liberty County down here. But then this is in the Gadsden County right now. And then some of this, some of the worst, the wind may still be a little bit further back west of the area still. But we're just going to watch the progression of this very carefully here as the situation does evolve. I know it does clip a little to South Georgia as well. There's the warning. I know, west of area, Jackson, Calhoun, in our area. In Florida, Gadsden, Liberty's, not quite in our area either anymore. Then you have Decatur, Grady, and Seminole, Decatur, and Grady in our area. So Decatur, Grady, and Gadsden in our 38-county area right now with the severe thunderstorm warning until about 1:15. Again, watching areas there like just in the whole polygon itself, Midway, Quincy, Havana, Blountstown, Greensboro, Chattahoochee, Snead, Gretna, Bristol, Attapulgis, Rock Bluff, Juniper, Douglas City, Florence, Jamison, Recovery, Princess Steele, and Quincy Airport. So again, just continuing to track all this here. Just trying to keep you guys up to date. Again, seeing some of these purples on the radar there. Northern Liberty County, and then moving into what part of Gadsden County. I know we're just going to make sure this doesn't turn tornadic or potentially tornadic on us. We have had a tornado possible tag with this here. And this warning goes to 115, 60-mile-an-hour wind gust, and also quarter-size hail possibility as well. So again, just continuing to give you guys the very latest here with this. Trying to let you guys know what's happening. Again, tracking toward the Greensboro area. You can see here Gadsden County. Again, this will be tracking into Leon County eventually around Tallahassee. So definitely something to be mindful of there. The capital city as we get toward that 1 o'clock hour. So again, just continuing to track everything here for you. Let's go ahead and effort some traffic camera images right now as we look at the overall situation. And I'm going to see if I can pull up some traffic cam views in Gadsden County of some of these deteriorating conditions, or conditions that are really already deteriorated there. As we look, as we track, I know. Let's go ahead and we'll pull up a camera mile marker 177. You'll be able to see some of the darker skies. So let me go ahead and throw this up here right now. You can see what we're talking about. You can see that viewpoint there as we're looking there. I know it has central time on here, but this should just be into the eastern zone as we're looking and as we're tracking things here. As we give you guys the very latest there. Just trying to keep you guys up to date here on the situation. I'm just trying to let you guys know what's going on there. Again, it's a thunderstorm warning until 1:15. So, not tornado warning. Never had any tornado warnings in our area. Today we had some west of the area, a good number of them there in the Panama City designated market area there. But in toward our covered area, we haven't had any, but now we're starting to see, something a little more organized come in. We had that one warning in Decatur County earlier on, but now this is more organized, trying to come on in toward Gadsden County there. So again, just trying to give you guys the very latest. I keep scrubbing between some of the different images here in terms of the different snapshots, in terms of the viewpoints here between base velocity there, your base reflectivity. So base reflectivity, I'll go back over to that. And that should be your common radar picture here, your common radar view. By the way, 81 in Quincy, but let me put some of the wind information on. I know as this comes on in, it's going to be a situation we're watching to see how things evolve here, to see how they pick up here with the overall numbers. So that's something to be very mindful of. I know officially this does go into South Georgia just a little bit too for parts of Decatur and parts of Grady in our area, but really in toward Florida is we're a little more concerned based on some of the Doppler echoes here. The way this kind of has that bow shape to it a little bit. I mean, it's not, just overwhelming, but it's something here, just the overall, it had more of a supercellular structure earlier on, and that's what we were more concerned for, tornadic potential. Now it's kind of, probably something where it's more about the straight line winds. Even the hail threats kind of waned some with this, it would seem here over the last little bit. But again, continuing to give you guys the very latest here into that I-10 corridor as we're looking at things and as we're tracking things. Again, watching things carefully. I know we have folks like Top Cat watching. I appreciate you tuning in there. And just everybody tuning in and trusting me this afternoon with the severe weather coverage. Again, getting this moving into toward parts of, western Gatston County. Parts of western Gadsden County there. Trying to give you guys the very latest on what's going on as we're looking at the situation. You can see some of these brighter colors here on the base velocity product in Jackson County, and again coming in toward Gadsden County as we look at the overall scenario. So again, the conditions deteriorating there in Gadsden, be inside away from windows. This is right during that lunch hour. We're giving you an update in the last hour about this potential. And we talked about the tornado watch in the hour before that in the coverage. And now this is moving on into toward Gadsden County there. As we're looking, you can see Chattahoochee, Oak Grove, Hardaway, about to be in Greensboro there in Gadsden County. Now these conditions deteriorating. As I keep on scrubbing between things, some of the stronger wind might still be a little bit further back in this. That latest scan now showing winds about 56 miles an hour. That's just moving out of Jackson County still, just to get into Gadsden. So that might be where you'd have the damage, where you could get some trees to be falling down. And you don't want to have that, obviously. You don't want to be in a vulnerable spot, because if you have a tree fall, obviously that, if it falls on a car, that can be very tragic. A mobile home, very tragic. Even a home, depending on, site built one that I'm talking about, even, if you're, maybe, there, it's just if you're in the wrong spot, it could be very problematic for you. Again, looking at a couple of these areas of pixels, these are eastern Jackson, about to move into Gadsden. So even though the heavy rain has started and been going in Gadsden, the severe part might just be coming in now. We've been giving you a heads up here. We talked about it again, like I said earlier on, but then coming on here in the last few minutes, warning you guys. And you can see these, this is from about 2 minutes ago, maybe a minute and a half ago at this point, really, because, looking at the scans as we're looking and as we're tracking in terms of like the seconds. But my point is, it's probably already starting to get into toward Gadsden now. So, radar's not a continuous scan, so this pixel might be more like right here in reality. And this end of part of our viewing area now in western Gadsden, this area here, these pixels, kind of getting into western Gadsden near I-10, and some of this coming in as well. In fact, let's see what we can kind of, I don't know if we have any of the live cams there in far western Gadsden. It looked like those weren't coming up for me when I looked earlier on. It looks like there's still shots, but we can try to get as far west with a live cam as we can here. And we'll show you the vehicles on the road at least. I know it's kind of pointed down, unfortunately, and I know we don't have any control over these cameras here. These are Florida 501 views, but you can see here what we're talking about, what we're tracking here. Definitely a situation where, things have deteriorated there. In terms of the weather scenario and/or Gadsden further west, but now they're about to deteriorate further east here as well. By the way, we're still, as I go ahead and move away from this, I look at my thermometer here, where I'm at, we're east of Stark in north central Florida, and I'm going to go ahead and broaden the view here. We're at 90 degrees on my thermometer. They're at 91 in Keystone. We have some fire weather danger today. The winds are picking up. Humidity is getting lower out ahead of this, and we're not expecting a bunch of rain, so have to watch out. A drought update today, still not a good one. Extreme to exceptional drought here as we're looking. So they're getting some beneficial rain out west. I mean, some lightning too, and some of that in southeast Georgia even, but not so much for north central Florida today as we're looking and as we're tracking things. I mean, it's not really a severe threat, but still, again, not the rain that we need. But you can see our severe thunderstorm warning does continue to 1:15 for portions there of our area, really all of Gadsden County under this. And then we have southern Decatur and southwestern Grady. So again, that's the storyline right now. It was about Gadsden County more than anything. I didn't even put Georgia in the description because, I mean, it's really about Gadsden County here in our area right now. As I'll get back on over. I mean, it's, right there at Tallahassee maybe too, but that's, technically right over the line into Florida. But you can see this, I mean, right into Georgia, maybe for a mile. Maybe, but Chatahoochee's getting hit pretty hard. They may be getting some damage there right now in Chattahoochee. So this is a pretty strong, severe storm. And then we have some of this. This is coming right for Hardaway here. This may be the strongest. This actually says 58 on my pixel query here behind the scenes. So this is moving over toward the Hardaway area and or Gretna as well in Gadsden County. So again, got to be very mindful of that. And, want to be inside away from windows here in this type of situation. So again, we have a severe thunderstorm warning here in play. We have a severe thunderstorm warning here in play until about 1:15 as we're tracking things right now. I don't anticipate this to hold together maybe past about Jefferson or Madison counties, really, based on the parameters, the watch. I'll show you guys. The tornado watch only goes to Jefferson. I mean, Tallahassee hadn't really had any rain, and we've had a tornado watch since 3 a.m., but that's going to change here soon in that 1 o'clock hour in terms of, meaningful precip at least. Maybe had some sprinkles there as we look at the last hour in a few spots, but meaningful precip coming in, but some dangerous lightning as well. And may get a severe thunderstorm warning by about 1:15 toward the Tallahassee metro, as those wind pixels are still pretty strong. We're not seeing much of the hail signatures, much of the tornado signatures, but we're getting the wind signatures there. Wind damage potential in Gadsden County. Again, this is pretty nasty. This looks like, unlike some of these here, we were tracking in terms of like the advisories, didn't have a whole bunch, or, we had that one warning for Decatur last week. It didn't show it as well because we're so far from the radar, but Marion did verify, with that severe thunderstorm warning last Saturday. This one actually shows on radar pretty close that it should verify into one that produces some severe winds and maybe even some damage here in our western counties. It's intensifying some. Let me go ahead. According to this Tallahassee radar, let me check. There's some rotation starting to become a little more notable maybe. I'll scrub, yeah. I mean, it's starting to pick up a little bit here, warm air. So even though the overall forecast is this should ultimately weaken, it may be on a short, uptick here in intensity as we're getting into western Gadsden County. 59 miles an hour on that pixel query right now with this right here, just west of Hardaway, moving toward areas there, and I'll scrub back and scrub forward. Areas there like Hardaway and Gretna and Quincy here. You have Greensboro. All this whole corridor here could be, something that causes some damage there as we look and as we track. I mean, that leading edge, may not be really in Greensboro. Maybe just some heavy rain, and it might give you a false sense of security here. And then things in terms of those winds are kind of, the wind damage potential is kind of wrapped within the rain. I mean, you see that about tornadoes sometimes, but this is coming down, so that rain will be bringing it down to the surface, and then we could have some damage potential there toward western Gadsden, and then maybe even further east, points east there toward Gadsden County as we look ahead toward the timeline. So again, I appreciate you guys tuning in. I appreciate you guys trusting me, trying to give you guys the very latest on what's going on. I know if you're watching here on the different platforms, just make sure you like the video because more people see it and be informed about the concern that way, the danger that way, so they can take precautions. I know in terms of, we have YouTube there at Clouds Weather. You also have just the overall whole list of platforms that I'm on. We have Facebook there, Casey Cloud X, Cloud Weather Facebook page as well. You have the X platform, formerly known as Twitter there at Cloud Casey. You have Twitch there, Cloud Weather, cloudweather.com with all the links. And again, YouTube, I know you can back things up. So if you missed something I said, especially like when we do a formal update, that's helpful. Like if I went over something for the forecast and then, you don't want to sit through the whole video there. You want to know what I was saying in terms of some in-depth content there. You can kind of go back and you can understand, like maybe a rainfall forecast or something without having to wait another few minutes for the update to wrap up. But that can be helpful in severe weather coverage too, like if there's something I was talking about, if we really get busy with storms and you need to talk, have me talk to you guys and in terms of being able to see what just, was going on in one area versus another, and you're more concerned about the area maybe than I'm not talking about quite as much because there's a little less concern, but if it's where you're at, it's more concerning for you, obviously. But right now, this is about the only area in town here in terms of the Doppler perspective, the only area of concern in town. In terms of our viewing circle. When I say town, the only game in town is where I'm going, but of course, severe weather is not a game. Severe weather can be very serious. I don't really want to use that phrasing too much, but you get what I'm saying there. As we're tracking things, Chattahoochee, you have Gretna, you have Greensboro, you have Quincy there. Again, just continuing to give you guys the latest here on these scans. On these scans here, 56 miles an hour. These are only about 2,000 feet up, so very much could be reaching down to the surface. Some of this in northern Liberty County. I know we've been watching that there as well. I know officially don't cover Liberty County anymore. Liberty and Franklin, those are part of the Panama City DMA, so follow those meteorologists in that area. But Quincy, Gatston County, that is part of the Tallahassee area, and we cover the Tallahassee areas here. Again, not Liberty, Franklin, that's Panama City, but Leon, Gadsden, those are Tallahassee DMA counties. Tallahassee designated market area. So again, trying to give you guys the very latest here, trying to keep you guys up to date on what's going on. I know we have, a viewer there watching from Bainbridge, that watches a good bit here. I appreciate you tuning in. And they're asking right now, is the threat pretty much over for Bainbridge? It's looking like it's winding down, a little bit of lingering lightning here. But it's a situation, as we're looking up that way, that it looks like that severe threat's pretty much over. 26-mile-an-hour gust a little while ago, up into toward Decatur County. As we're tracking things, as we're watching things. But yeah, that severe threat looks like it's pretty much winding down. And under the southern half of the county under a warning, but right in Bainbridge itself, not as big of a concern. Right here, like around Faceville and Attapulgis is a different story. You still got to be careful since you're under a warning. But in Bainbridge itself, it looks like that threat's winding down. Cooler air starting to take over there as we look and as we track. Again, I appreciate everybody tuning in and trusting me. You see 72, the reading there a little bit ago there at the Decatur County Industrial Airport. So again, just appreciate you guys tuning in here and trusting me this afternoon. With the very latest weather information. So, again, just really appreciate everybody here on all the different platforms. Again, letting you guys know what's going on here meteorologically. We'll go ahead and keep looking. Let me do something else. I know it's a little bit, maybe wondering why I'm going to the Jacksonville radar, but I can't pull it up one or the other. I just want to make sure we don't have any fires that are starting to get going with our fire weather concern, because we're watching for all our counties. Let me just make sure. I don't know, that looks like something a little bit weird down there. And let me see, is that anything? Yeah, that might be something in Western Putnam there, to be completely honest with you guys. Let me check our hydro. Yeah, I think that might be something. Let me see if there's any notes about that from forestry real quick. I know it's weird to go from tornado stuff to fires, but we have to cover everybody here. And I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. I know we had a Loch Lusa fire situation, that we've been following. Let me see if there's a new fire there, though, or a ignition there or something that's getting going. I know we've had the State Road 26 fire, but that looks a little east for that. And our wind direction today, the winds, we're tracking them out of the west in general, so that means that, your fire is a situation where things will be pushed off to the east. So if there is something, which I'm not going to guarantee yet because it's not a guaranteed signature, maybe, around here, and we've had some fire activity in the region. So, I don't know if it's just a day, things starting to get, a little bit easier to see on radar if there's something more to it there. I definitely have to be mindful in the eastern parts of Alachua County, though, as we track things here with the overall meteorology. But let's get back to the actual severe warnings here right now as we're looking at the Doppler perspective. And Yeah, I appreciate you absolutely watching there as well over on Facebook. I really do appreciate you tuning in there on the Facebook platform. Everybody, I really just appreciate everybody tuning in, interest in me here on this Thursday, this May 7th here, 2026. So, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, whatever, just appreciate everybody tuning in here and trusting me as we go ahead. And you can see we have a little weak rotation there on Oak Grove. As we're looking there, as we're tracking things, as we're monitoring things. Again, just trying to give you guys the very latest here. It looks like some damaging potential there on US 90. US 90 there in Gatston County could get some trees knocked down right about now, between Oak Grove and Gretna. So be mindful, and then that could be headed up toward areas there, Quincy to Faceville, give or take. As we're looking at the Doppler scans, maybe in northern Gadsden around State Road 267. Again, these pixels here indicate winds of 50, 55 miles an hour, and they have a higher chance of verifying because we're closer to the radar scans, where the radar is at the Tallahassee airport. So it's looking a little lower in these storms. And that's some rotation. I mean, that may, I don't think I wouldn't quite go with a tornado warning, but there's a tornado possible tag. We're starting to see the greens get a little bit brighter here with the couplets. So, if that were to get a little bit brighter even, they may go with a tornado warning here to be on the safe side. It's not overwhelming. It's pretty broad, quite honestly. But we have to monitor this just in case it is warm out there. So, we'll just have to wait and see here as we're looking at the overall situation. Again, we have that severe thunderstorm warning in effect here. When thunder roars for any of these storms, you want to go indoors or seek shelter inside that sturdy building. Stay away from windows. So, again, something to be very mindful of, obviously, as we're tracking things. Again, you can see there on Hardaway, we're just going to continue to look, continue to monitor, get these latest scans in. Let me just keep looking here for the latest updates. So this warning goes until 1:15, so for another 25 minutes officially. As we look here, as we track, that looks like it's intensifying some more now. Seeing gusts of maybe 65 miles an hour right there, just into, just from, Georgia into Florida, as we're looking there, we're talking about areas around US 90. That looks like some damaging wind to me. Checking some of our products just to make sure we don't have anything crazy going on. Just making sure we don't have any type of, I don't think it's tornadic, but just not seeing any debris or anything, thankfully, in that regard. But this is some strong wind, 64 miles an hour showing up here northeast of Hardaway. Again, this is something to be very mindful of. Be inside, be away from windows as we're looking at things and as we're tracking them. Again, this is something we're really having to be cognizant of. Northwest of Quincy here, I know. Just to give you guys perspective, I mean, we have folks that watch from, all over the 38 county area, maybe even folks out of the area too. But let me just kind of give you guys some perspective here. In just a moment, I'm going to get our, coverage area map here up just to remind everybody where we're covering. Remember, we're covering 38 counties now versus the 62. We're going to have some big upgrades coming here. Going to have more, consistent, type of scheduled updates here in terms of things from the Weather Center in the future. But, of course, we are still covering Decatur County, where Bainbridge is in Grady County, Cairo, Thomas County, Thomasville. You have Brooks County, of course. You have Lowndes County, Lanier, and the like. And then we have Gadston County, and that's northwest of Tallahassee. And that's where we have the severe thunderstorm warning right now. We're in Bradford, so if you're watching in Bradford, you see the sun out, you see 90 degrees on the thermometer, give or take. Probably not going to have any severe weather here. It's so dry, the humidity is at 47%. We need the rain. May get a little bit of rain, maybe better chance of that tomorrow, but severe threat is not necessarily, out toward the east here. I know, just to give you guys geographic perspective, that looks like it's getting stronger and stronger here. right when people maybe, during the lunch hour, they, trying to relax a little bit here, maybe a busy work day and they're trying to relax a little bit as we're looking and as we're tracking things. And has that slight risk of severe weather. It does go all over about Lake City and Valdosta. Tornado watch is till 2. We'll watch to see if that, gets extended a little bit longer here as we look at the overall situation. We'll just have to be very mindful of that. That looks more intense here by the moment. I mean, it could be the angle on the radar a little bit too, but we already had damage reports out of the west with some of this. This was weakening a little bit, it looked like, but it's really picked up strength here. We've had, Holmes County in Florida, wind damage on a road. A Bethlehem community, several trees were knocked down on Highway 177. A tree down near the Graceville community in Jackson County and all west of our area so far, but this might be changing as we're speaking to you guys. I mean, a tree down in Bonifay, numerous trees down and power lines down around Definiak Springs. That was around 10 a.m. Central, 11 a.m. Eastern this morning. Issues, out toward Washington County as well, and maybe seeing them happen, issues, power lines, maybe being knocked down. Right now, trees being knocked down in Gretna. This is really upticking here. May very well be seeing some power outages. I know you may want to be charging those devices up right ahead of this in case, you could lose power. I know. Check the track on this because the angle's been, that keeps getting stronger, which that may get a tornado warning if that continues like that. Just, and that, that trend is a little bit more inward. I know folks around Tallahassee itself here, maybe, right into Tallahassee, maybe right into town here. We need to be very mindful of this, folks. I mean, eventually this is going to weaken because the parameters won't be there, but they may be there to get us through Tallahassee with quite a bit of damage potential. Doesn't mean we'll have quite a bit of damage, but we could have a potential of a good bit, unfortunately, as we're looking here. But this is looking pretty strong. I mean, it's not really crazy looking, in terms of like tornadic potential. It's a severe thunderstorm warning with a tornado possible tag. It's just, I get nervous with what happened 2 years ago. I mean, I know a lot of folks watching get nervous with anxiety, so I don't, there's a really good chance that we don't have anything like that repeats, obviously, because that was a very odd scenario what we had on that fateful May 10th there, 2024, as we were looking at things. As we were tracking things, it's an awful set of circumstances, but I don't like how some of that wind is kind of coming together as we get toward the populated area here. It's unlikely we'll have anything that repeats like that. That was something that we hadn't had damage like that in Tallahassee since Hurricane Kate 85, until we had that event there in 2024. With those tornadoes. I'm just going to real quick again. This is a flashback. I'm going to show it only for a moment because it's what I have in here to sell. But this is from that terrible day, that terrible morning 2 years ago. The anniversary is coming up. The 10th here is Mother's Day. This year's the anniversary. But, as you're tracking things, I know it's something where, folks still remember that day. We had fatalities that day, tornado-related fatalities, which are very unusual anywhere around. As we're looking here toward our regions. That's something we'll never forget, obviously, as we're looking and as we're tracking things, as we're keeping you guys informed, obviously. Just letting you guys know everything here in terms of that storyline as we keep you guys informed. I know just, thinking about all the different things that can happen in meteorology here. Again, just talking about that day there back 2 years ago. We had everything come together, unfortunately. We have a new warning now, by the way. Let's go ahead and touch on that. There's your new severe thunderstorm warning that just got issued here. So we have eastern Gadston, northwestern Jefferson, Leon, southeastern Decatur, southern Grady, southern Thomas counties now until 2 p.m. At 12:54, severe thunderstorms are located along a line extending from 10 miles north of Havana to 8 miles southeast of Greensboro, moving east at about 50 miles an hour. 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts, quarter-size hail. Tallahassee, Woodville, Monticello, Tallahassee State College, Florida State University, Havana, Midway, Florida A&M, Quincy, Doak Campbell Stadium, Lake Bradford, Cody, Florence, South City, Quincy Airport, Bloxham, Nickelville, and Tallahassee Airport. And I know folks are urged to remain alert for a possible tornado, as tornadoes can quickly develop from severe thunderstorms. So you need to be ready, for that. But just really want to be inside away from windows anyway here. Again, a nasty cluster of storms coming on in here. Definitely something to be mindful of as we're looking and as we're tracking things here in terms of the overall scenario in the Weather Center. So, again, we're trying to keep you guys up to date here. Again, severe weather moving in toward Tallahassee over the next little bit, and we just got to hope this doesn't turn tornadic on us. It may. We have the tornado watch in play until 2 o'clock, and we have this warning now in play until 2 p.m. After 2, there'll still be a threat a little bit east, but it'll be starting to wane some based on all the different things I've looked at here in the Weather Center once this gets past Tallahassee. But we got to get it through Tallahassee here first. We got to get it through Leon County, the capital city, FSU, FAMU, Tallahassee State College area. So, again, you can see around Quincy, we're getting some pretty strong pixels here of wind. These brighter colors showing like 59 miles an hour, maybe worth of winds moving in toward Quincy here. There's gusts getting about 60 or so on the anemometers. If, there is one. As we look here real quick, let me just remind you guys of what we're dealing with in terms of some of this. And we have a temperature station there down to 79. So we'll be watching to see if the wind picks up on that here. That'll help us out to see how much this is, still maybe reaching, maybe verifying here as we look a little bit further off toward the east. Again, watching things, tracking things here. We have a lot of instability, which is a concern. Eventually, this is going to be slacking up, but you see that orange there. That means energy for the storm to take advantage of. You have hurricanes when they're in the Gulf. They have the warm water temperatures. Well, this is a similar idea. Not the same thing, the same process, but it's the same idea of energy for the storm acts and then maybe, sustain itself or intensify. And you have 2,000, according to the system, 2,333 joules per kilogram of surface-based CAPE, which is quite a bit here, right towards Tallahassee. So that's enough for the storm acts and sustain it. Except if supercell composite, it helps with rotation potential, that type of, metric, 1 to a little over that, and the STP is lower than it was for the west, which is good. So again, that's why we don't maybe have a tornado warning on this, but we still have some characteristics that can be damaging here in toward Tallahassee as we're looking. That's still enough to maybe get a tornado warning. But that's not overwhelming, about an 0.1 to an 0.2 on that toward Tallahassee, which is fairly low, which is good. But we still have a tornado watch. It's not zero, that threat for tornadic activity. So we're at 1 o'clock right now. Meteorologist Casey Cloud here in the Weather Center. We got a severe thunderstorm warning for Tallahassee, for FSU. I know we have folks, that aren't necessarily there right now, or just graduated. They might just be wrapping things up with their apartment and the like. But FSU, FAMU, Tallahassee State College, you have the state capitol. They're all under this warning here as we're trying to keep you guys updated here this afternoon. We've been talking about this potential here, about this timeline here for the last few hours. Really talking about this potentially coming on in there. And again, you got to be very mindful of the situation as we're looking and as we're tracking. Got to be very mindful here. Let me just keep looking at the overall camera views behind the scenes. Trying to give you an idea of some of those deteriorating conditions. Oh, we sort of have it. Florida 511 there. I think it might have been a little worse a few minutes ago based on the screenshot it had up before I went to it. But this is their Gatston County, High Bridge Road. You can see here folks having to take it easy, obviously, on this Florida 511 perspective this afternoon. Again, with this storminess coming on through, you can see the camera shaking a little with some of that wind. When you first get that rain, the oils on the roads make things a little bit slick when they mix with the water, with that precip. So that can be a cause for concern. Maybe lead to, some accidents even, which would be, obviously not good. Folks that get involved, even if it's minor, it's still a big deal. So got to keep that in mind. So again, just continuing to give you guys the very latest here. Continuing to keep you guys informed what we're dealing with here in terms of the overall meteorology. I know we're just continuing to track things. I know folks wondering about North Central Florida with the 93 at Keystone Airport now. More about the fire threat, these temperatures here. I know, we're watching things with that and those trends, sure. But let me get the HRRR modeling up here. Let me get some of this up because we, wonder maybe will we get anything like Clay County. I mean, the short answer is not really at all, much of a threat toward North Central Florida and Northeast Florida. But I'm just going to see the model, and it really has things fizzling out. I mean, I think it may fizzle out a little later than that if I scrub back. It may take the Valdosta, even Live Oak before this fizzles, but yeah, you barely may, have, much rain toward Clay County, Bradford County from this later on today anyway. So, just something to keep in mind, but not expecting much rain further off toward the east and North Central Florida where we're at. We're in Bradford, covering up for our 38 county area as we're looking and as we're tracking things here in the weather center. So, again, I'll just remind you guys of the cover zone here. We recently changed things around with some of that. We're doing a lot more here weeks to come, but with upgrade and the like. But let me go ahead and just remind you guys, we're in Bradford, and you can see these are the 38 counties we cover, always on for any tornado warning storms we've been through, and most severe thunderstorm situations as well. So again, we're sticking with this here right now toward Tallahassee, toward FSU, toward FAMU, toward Tallahassee State College, momentarily. Some of those areas will have that concern here, but, we have the concern a little bit west right now, and that's out toward Quincy and out toward areas center on Midway. That's where one of the two TV stations, that do news and weather are in the Tallahassee market. One's further east in Tallahassee, the other's in Midway, though, the ABC affiliates. They're about to get some pretty strong winds there in eastern Gatston County. So, again, that's something to keep in mind as we're looking and as we're tracking things, as we're monitoring things here overall. I mean, I, went to FSU, 2012, 2016 there, that period. So I'm very familiar with some of the different things, the different intricacies here toward that Florida Big Bend region as we're looking at things and as we're tracking things. Trying to give you guys the very latest there on what's going on as we're looking at the different echoes. We're seeing 58 miles an hour with this right now, which is a cause for concern. These are some strong winds, guys. Tallahassee, you need to be inside away from windows. I almost, I wouldn't mind you treating this like a tornado situation even, but especially just get away from windows. If you're in Tallahassee, you don't want to be where a tree might fall either. As we're looking and as we're tracking things, as we're giving you guys the very latest. I know trees can fall because of different reasons, here in terms of the overall situation as we're looking and as we're tracking things. Just got to keep that in mind here. Just got to be very mindful, obviously, as we're looking, as we're tracking. I know this is going way back now. It seems like it was just yesterday. But when I was at FSU there, the old bookstore is where this, it's near the new one as well. But, the old bookstore, this is a picture of a tree that that fell right there across the road in 2014 after we had a tornado warning situation that morning there when I was there. And you can just see what we're talking about, stuff like that. I mean, that's a roadway there. And stuff like that can happen, obviously. And if, you're underneath it, that can be, nobody got hurt that day, but it can be tragic if a tree falls, in terms of, maybe in a mobile home or something like that. It's, road. I mean, it's hard to tell from this, but if you're familiar with that area, that's just a dramatic view to block that whole road there between, it used to be, the bookstore and the Union are together now, but the old bookstore, the old Union, that roadway there, being blocked. Photo I took way back in 2014. It seemed like it was just yesterday, but no, it's been a while now. But as we go ahead and look there, we had some of that activity, that stuff can fall. That was my point. As we look and as we track, as we give you guys the very latest here, so just have to be careful. I mean, that might have been. I know we can get them sometimes because of saturated ground. We're not gonna have a whole bunch of rain here, but you can get them just from the wind as well to fall. I mean, they had, a lot more trees and problems during Hermine in Tallahassee, but then in 24, they had even more problems, probably more, most they had since Michael, but that they had more problems in 24 with the wind damage, the tornadoes there. You guys in Tallahassee, the most there, in 24 since '85 when you had Hurricane Kate come on through, which is crazy to even think about. Just another graphic I have together here, and I'll go ahead and pull it up real quick since we don't have like a tornado warning or anything. But let me go ahead and just, we're going to get this up on the screen real quick. It's the graphic I have about the worst tropical cyclones based on my subjective analysis by county here. This was in our 62 county area. I haven't made a new one for the smaller zone, but the point is, Kate, despite Michael, despite Helene, despite Hermine, Kate's still that dominant storm, but then that damage in 24 rivaled that with that tornadic weather and wind damage coming through over 100-mile-an-hour winds in some areas. We're not expecting that here today. We didn't expect it then. Right now, I'm thinking 60, though. Definitely could happen there in Tallahassee based on these scans, maybe even up to 70 here. So this is something we got to take, heed of here. Right across the interstate, though, around Midway. Let's get a camera up there. Let's get a camera up there around Midway. We'll pull up a traffic camera in just a moment here. I'm going to effort one of those for everybody at home. So coming in toward the Midway area about now. Let's see some of these deteriorating conditions. The Florida 511 view. There you go. You can see it right now live on the air. Mile marker 188 on I-10. These trees are blowing around a good bit. Right now with this storm accent coming through, the severe thunderstorm warning there in that area. Some folks having to try to drive through it, but obviously it's not an ideal situation to be in here, getting caught in a severe thunderstorm. I mean, in summertime, it can happen a little easier, but this time of year, with the lines, we're a little, really a lot more limited in spatial, spatial coverage, there's more to them, but in terms of like time, we don't have them near as often as we do summertime storms. But again, there's the tree axe in there moving around I-10 there, mile marker 188. So again, trying to give you guys the very latest here on what's going on with a severe thunderstorm situation there. Severe thunderstorm situation out there right now. Let's get back to the Doppler. Effort some more camera views. As we look, I'll try to look right into Midway maybe. Well, this is really nasty looking, right toward the Midway area. I just saw a little bit of debris kind of popping up, it looked like, on this. Maybe a little bit of tree debris, something like that, right when I was trying to take that view. So this is some nasty weather, really reduced visibility, really slow go right there. As you look at this is some nasty, weather, these nasty conditions moving on through right now as we're looking at things in Gatston, eastern Gadsden counties. So again, you can see what we're dealing with here with the trees blowing around right now, telling that story. Look at that camera view. And definitely some rough conditions there in toward Florida, Big Bend. Some of that debris there on that view. Again, look at that. Ooh, getting in front of the camera. That didn't look like the strongest wind in the world because, otherwise it'd be blowing even, it's just where the tree is positioned. I mean, it's just strong, but, it's not like this, that's not having to move that far to get in front of the camera is what I'm saying. But yeah, that's a little more concerning, seeing some of those leaves kind of flying around there as we're looking, as we're tracking. That's more indicative of what I was seeing right when I was pulling this up. As we're looking here, the overall situation live, Florida 511 camera there, as we look at the overall situation, Florida Department of Transportation. So, again, just trying to give you guys the very latest here. Trying to give you guys the very latest. Trying to keep you guys informed. 1:12 p.m. is the time. So that kind of tells the story. We'll look for more camera views. We'll look for more camera views, but that's the velocity again, the radar scan. As we give you guys the updates there. We're just trying to keep you up to date. Let's see what else I can find with some of the cameras. It's got a mile marker 190 right now. Oh, I hit the wrong button, but of course, these areas have had hurricane issues in the, years past, like, of course, Michael comes to mind, but let's go ahead and you can see what I'm talking about here. Some wet conditions for sure. Definitely seeing some of that there. Again, telling that story. I think it calmed down just a little once I put this one on, but again, giving you the latest, tracking everything. Local North Florida weather coverage here. Florida Big Bend coverage is what we're tracking this afternoon. Again, I appreciate everybody watching, all 43 of you on the different platforms. It looks like is what we have in terms of our viewership right now. Again, I appreciate everybody tuning in here and trusting me. Let me see what else I can come up with here in terms of the latest information, what sources we have as we look. Let me check power outage numbers. Not seeing anything yet, but it's going to take time. Okay, let's go to a mile and a half over. Look at that. That tells a story. That wind blowing, that camera blowing. Definitely some nasty, rough conditions right now there. Mile marker 191, Blue Star Highway area, I-10. Definitely telling that other story here as we track this off toward the east. With this severe thunderstorm situation. Again, letting you guys know what's going on here. Definitely making things, rough. A rough go of it. A rough go of it for sure. Again, trying to let you know what's happening, what's going on. Again, keeping you guys informed on everything. It's so important. It's very important to be vigilant here. I'm going to go ahead and keep looking. See if the thunderstorm warning still in effect, of course. Let me go ahead and check the particulars. It's still 2 o'clock. Severe thunderstorms were located a little bit earlier along a line extending from 10 miles north of Havana to 8 miles southeast of Greensboro. Moving east at 50 miles an hour, 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts, quarter-size hail possibility for sure, but really the wind's probably the bigger deal, much more likely hazard here as we're looking at the overall scenario. Again, just continuing to track things here. Okay, let's just get a little bit further over now on the traffic camera. Showing that to you guys now. Looks like we just had a damage report in Quincy, so let's jump back over here. We'll look at that. Trees have been reported down in Quincy, and additional trees are reported elsewhere, as down in the county. So quite a bit of damage, it sounds like, in Gatston County. That's, as of about, it looks like 1 o'clock, an emergency manager report. So unfortunately, what we were warning about, in terms of some of that wind damage did come to fruition there in toward Gadsden County this afternoon. So again, just continuing to give you guys those frequent updates here. It's all about protecting you, your friends, your family. I know we have Elisa watching there from Tallahassee, Northeast Tallahassee. I appreciate you tuning in. I appreciate everybody tuning in here and trusting me this afternoon. I know Northeast Tallahassee, some of this has kind of jogged a little bit, the way we've been watching it. We were kind of thinking it might go a little bit more south than it has. So yeah, Northeast Tallahassee definitely going to be getting into some of this. Now, in terms of the wind damage, potential we get close to the radar, so it kind of gets a little murky, but yeah, I mean, definitely could, that northern fringe of that definitely could get into Northeast Tallahassee there over the next little bit. So, all of Tallahassee really, there's all the way from about up here, so that kind of extends across. They're down here, so that's almost all of Tallahassee, with some type of wind damage potential. We could have quite a few trees knocked down in the Tallahassee area. I wouldn't be surprised if we have multiple thousand, in the dark here. So, I mean, hopefully, if you have, haven't yet, I know there's not much time with the lightning coming in and like, but hopefully you can get an extra few percent charge on that battery on that phone just in case the power goes out for a little bit, especially if it's running down. I mean, you might not want to plug it in with the lightning coming at this point if it has a pretty good charge, be in the middle of the afternoon and everything. But if you're running really short on battery, this is coming in right now into Ward Tallahassee here, as we're looking right around Northfleet. So western Leon County starting to get some of that wind coming on in here for sure as we're looking at the overall situation. Again, just trying to keep you guys informed here. Let me go ahead and go to another camera. We'll go mile marker 194 on I-10 now. You see these rough conditions, but again, some of the strongest ones, maybe in between even. We kind of saw some of that one camera showed with the tree that was really blowing in front, but definitely we need the rain, have that terrible drought, but you don't want severe weather. You don't want severe weather. We have some of that potential with some wind damage, maybe a decent amount, unfortunately, of wind damage coming right into Ward Tallahassee here in the next few moments. I mean, West Tallahassee, the western side of Leon, starting to get it now. It's going to be maybe the worst storm we've had in Tallahassee here in the last, I mean, I'm trying to think back here because I hadn't been that active with a severe weather year. This might be one of the, not saying it's, just not like 2024. I'm not seeing those type of signatures. We had winds over 100 on radar then. We're not seeing that. We're seeing winds to about 60, but consistently. So this could be, one of the worst weather events we've had so far this year in Tallahassee. Not that we've had that much, but, again, something to kind of bear in mind as we're looking, as we're tracking. But, this is not a repeat of 2024. That's good news, as it's gotten closer. We didn't think it would be. That's a, generational type event, and the way that set up was so surprising too. We hadn't seen anything like that since Hurricane Kate, in Tallahassee with those type of winds. I mean, we had Hermine and Michael, but it's a situation here where definitely can have some damage. Not a historic thing, not overwhelming, but if it impacts you, it can be dangerous. It can be life-threatening in a few spots. And this camera's starting to wane a little bit, so let me go ahead and see what else. Oh, okay, we just got a tornado warning. So your phone's maybe going off there now. We just got a tornado warning. So let me go ahead and see what we have here then. I know we're close to the radar, so sometimes it's a little hard to spot things. A red box, not a purple, so it's the radar indicated rotation, not a confirmed tornado at this point in time, like what we had in 24. But let me see what they're saying here. The Weather Service in Tallahassee. This is East Central Gatston and Northeastern Leon. We're talking about severe thunderstorms capable of producing both tornadoes and extensive straight line wind damage located near Tallahassee, moving east at 45 miles an hour. So we do have a tornado warning now. I know let's see what they're seeing from other angles, because right at the radar here, it's going to be hard to tell. I'm not seeing a whole bunch, but we got to take it seriously. Right at the radar, it's going to be hard to detect. I mean, I guess it's this. Okay, I see why they issued it. It's this little area right here, so close to the radar. Let's see if there's any debris. I don't see anything, but there's a little bit of a swirl here, just north of I-10. So northeast Tallahassee, you need to be, unfortunately, having to take precaution here right now for a potential tornado. So again, we have a tornado warning now into Ward Tallahassee. This is in northwest Tallahassee now, but I mean, for like our viewers here watching, from northeast Tallahassee and the like, unfortunately, this is starting to, wrap up a little bit. Not overwhelming, but still could be impactful here. So we got to take those tornado precautions. Again, a tornado warning now east central Gadston, northeastern Leon counties until 1:45 p.m. At 1:18, severe thunderstorms are capable of producing both tornadoes and extensive straight line wind damage in the Tallahassee area. So we have the Macon Community Center, Miccosukee Road Greenway, Tallahassee Hospital, Miccosukee, as well as Griffin Heights, Fred George Park, Galarna Estates, Lake Ella, Forest Meadows Park. You have a tornado warning. You need to get inside and away from windows here. Again, it's not a confirmed tornado, but we have a radar-indicated tornado here. As we look and as we track, we're checking this out here now. Again, trying to give you guys the very latest on what's going on. We have a tornado warning for parts of the Tallahassee Metro. Again, get inside, get away from windows here in this area. Again, trying to give you guys the very latest here. It's not overwhelming, but, some swirl here on the radar. Just north of I-10, just west here. As we're looking, as we're tracking. It's just west of North Meridian Road, about to cross over. We have some of this, okay, just crossed over. That latest scan, if there's a tornado, just crossed North Meridian. So US 319, the road to Bradfordville. Let's try to get a camera up in case there actually is something on the ground here, so we can get eyes on this. It's about, that road to Bradfordville, about to cross 319. Let me go ahead and check here where that spin is again. It'd be just north of I-10. Just north of I-10 there at 319. So that's a really busy area right near the other TV station in town there, the CBS station. If there's a tornado, that's a very, very, very highly populated area. If there's a tornado on the ground here, folks, be inside. Right near Thomasville Road, we could have a tornado there, possibly about to cross there. Oh boy, there's a lot of folks on the road. This is not ideal at all. This is developing very quickly here. At least wind damage potential. Again, as we throw things up, again, we have a tornado warning now. Look at all these folks on the road, a school bus. This is not a good situation. Another school bus, Capital City Northeast there, and Galarna Center Boulevard. Again, we need you guys in shelter. This is not ideal here. Again, we have a tornado warning right near Thomasville Road. We have a spin on the Doppler here, so it's not confirmed, but we could have, some damage here. I'm a little nervous about it because for being right close to the radar, to see any divergence like that in that populated area starts to really worry me a little, because let's see if there's any debris though, because we're not seeing debris, and I think if it was touching down, we would see debris here very quickly. And I don't think it's touching down, but the next scan could change here. So we really need to be very careful as we're looking at this, as we're tracking. We really need to be very mindful of what we're dealing with here. Switching to cameras, I see more school buses. As we're looking, as we're tracking things. Again, maybe the same one's just turning off, but you see some pond in the water on the roadway. Again, this is not an ideal situation, a tornado warning right now. Again, this would be crossing right there, 319. So we're talking about Thomasville Road. Again, a possible tornado. Maybe, besides FSU, even just really anywhere in Tallahassee, besides the capital area, downtown. You can make the argument this might be the most busy part of Tallahassee where this potential tornado be coming through here right now. Right there, right at it, right where everything kind of comes together as we're looking, again, based on that swirl on the Doppler here. That swirl on the Doppler. Let's get back over to some camera views. Let's go to that. I know folks are stopped. Maybe they set a red light, but let me go ahead and you can see how things is freezing up, but you can kind of see here how they have just in the last few moments, the storm action's gotten on in. Let me see if we have any other views we can kind of get to. Let's go to Galarna Center Boulevard and Village Square Boulevard. Again, this is a very nasty situation. Tornado warning in play again. cameras may be having some trouble with the signal and, with them because maybe a lot of people watch them, but maybe just because of the weather deteriorating. Let's see another camera view, capital circle. You can see here a lot of folks maybe stuck in that traffic. Again, trying to show you guys what's going on here around Tallahassee. Again, a dangerous situation there in Leon County because it's, it's about as highly popular area as it gets there in Tallahassee with a tornadic spin on radar. Nothing confirmed yet. But again, let's go ahead and go back on over. It's another view now, Capital Circle Northeast at Raymondale Road. Raymondale Road. Again, we need to be taking, precautions, maybe just passing this, area at this point. I'll go back to the radar scan and we'll kind of see what we're talking about here. We'll go ahead and see what we're talking about. Let's check for any debris here. It looks like more wind there, but again, the angles can play tricks on you here because they're right near the radar. Again, a nasty situation. Don't let your guard down because there's still a high pocket of wind coming in. Even if maybe that spin wasn't accidentally producing a tornado, because I think we'd start to get a big little area here because they're so close to the radar, even if it wasn't really strong. That's a lot of strong wind right here. It looks like right around North Meridian. And again, about to cross 319 Thomasville Road area there and the like. So again, this is a tornado warning there toward Tallahassee. Again, a dangerous situation this afternoon. It's about 1:30 p.m. Still may see some strong winds there, as we're looking on some of these cameras with folks stuck in traffic. Even if the, a tornado might, have not touched down there and it's, that circulation's passing by, you could still get some stronger winds right around Thomasville Road there and that area right in that very busy part of town there near the CBS affiliate there in that area. So again, as we're tracking things here in the Weather Center, again, trying to give you guys the very latest here. You see some of that pond in the water on the roadway. We haven't had rain in a while. That's a positive out of all this, but obviously not a good thing here in terms of that severe weather. In terms of that severe weather in toward the metro of Tallahassee with a tornado warning. And a lot of folks out and about here, I think that's another school bus. As we're looking here, it's unfortunate how things have transpired with that. It's not ideal, obviously, but it's just unfortunate. This ramping up on us a little bit. Again, hopefully we're not going to have a whole bunch of damage. I mean, you hope we don't have any, but I know we're going to have at least some. Not going to be like 2024. Not going to be like 2024, but, but it's still going to have some impacts there in toward Tallahassee. Let me check the city of Tallahassee power at its map here. We're just starting to get some very early numbers in. The added map, Tallahassee government, we have just under 1,000 customers in the dark there in the Tallahassee City electric grid there. So again, just trying to give you guys the very latest here on what's going on. I appreciate you guys tuning in and trusting me here. Again, a tornado warning in play right now in toward Leon County. We're still watching things. We're still tracking things. I know we had that little swirl. We had that little swirl right here. So close to the radar. We had some of those greens and reds try to come together there and move right near Thomasville Road. And, all that population, all those businesses there. As I'm looping here on the Doppler radar, now we have some strong winds that appear to be coming in. That might be more one direction. No, that could be the angle. By the way, we got Gatston 39, Tallahassee Airport. But the angle there, let me just check this from a broader view. But that doesn't help that much. I just wanted to see higher up because you're so close on the radar. Again, hopefully you guys took those tornado precautions, interior room away from windows. Still do that if you're further east here. It looks like some strong winds there, but again, okay, that's not where the tornado would be. The tornado would be further east, as we were alluding to. Okay, the tornado warning for Gadston's been canceled, but not for Leon. At 1:31 p.m., a severe squall line capable of producing both tornadoes and extensive straight-line wind damage was located near Tallahassee, moving east at about 40 miles an hour. So we're talking about Tallahassee, still being impacted. We have Killarney Estates. You have Miccosukee Road Greenway. You have Bradfordville in the box, at least. Though, again, I think the worst, maybe, and let me just double check here, maybe it's a little south there. But that wind is kind of a weird signature. But, if there's a tornadic spin, maybe somewhere along here, it's harder to pick out right now, but, we just have to be mindful. But we still have severe thunderstorm warning for some of this. How much of that is reaching? Let me get back to that Thomasville Road cam, to see if that's actually kind of getting down to the surface. I think some of those cameras are now down, so I might, let me see if we can pull up one of those. That one's down. Let me check this one. Well, I'm not seeing a whole bunch of wind on this view, thankfully. Sometimes the anomalies right near the radar can be really tricky, so when you're looking so low down. But I still see a thunderstorm warning, just, west of, for areas just west of on the west side of the tornado warning as well. So we're watching that. So again, we're going to watch this. It's a little bit of spin. I mean, you have the reds going away from the radar, greens toward right there, south side of Bradfordville. They're really just south of Bradfordville. Let me look. You see all that population in there, so maybe a little bit of something right in there. As we're looking, as we're tracking. Yeah, Killarney Acres there maybe. About what I'm looking at here with some of this impact. It's about, maybe the area that could be kind of seeing some of this. If there was a tornadic spin, maybe Killarney Estates as well, but again, just continuing to give you guys the very latest here on the situation. Trying to keep you guys informed here. It's so important. I'm just trying to let you know exactly what we're dealing with. Again, a nasty situation here as we look at the echoes on the Doppler. Again, a tornado warning for another 10 minutes. If you're in red box, don't get out of that tornado safe spot yet. And I'm sure all these schools having a shelter. That's not a fun situation here at all. I'm sure a lot of folks have anxiety here. We want you to remain calm in these situations. Tornadoes strike over a small area in general. Even though, again, we had what we did in 24. That was a very rare occurrence, that May 10th, 24. And this is, in general here, as most 99% of our events are, much more isolated here as we're looking and as we're tracking. So, again, just trying to give you guys the very latest here. Trying to let you know what we're dealing with here with the overall meteorology. Again, a tornado warning still toward Leon County. As we're looking there, we just want to be inside, away from windows here, obviously. As we're looking at the overall scenario, the interior room, at least have that bicycle helmet ready to put on, in case you do have a tornado coming in with some of that flying debris. You want to have your shoes on. Don't want to cut your feet up in the aftermath here. So, again, I'm not sure that we actually had a tornado in here. I mean, this really makes me think we didn't, because we've seen it before. Even weak tornadoes, you'll get a something on correlation coefficient here if we had something. So I would be surprised if we had something there, to be completely honest with you. But you just never know here as we're looking, as we're tracking things. We're just going to have to continue to be mindful here. Just continue to be watchful here of everything in toward the weather center. So, Again, just trying to let you know what's going on here with the overall meteorology. We had a tornado watch since 3 in the morning for Tallahassee, and then around 1 o'clock, a little after, we get a tornado warning there. As we're monitoring things, just always cause for concern there. As we're looking at the overall situation. Okay, we just got a severe thunderstorm warning update now. Gonna go ahead and click on that. Riding this out. They canceled it for Gatston, Decatur to the Weather Service in Tallahassee, but continuing it for portions of. Okay, and it looks like the tornado warning now. Let me double check that. I mean, technically, it may still be to 145, but they're going to go ahead and expire at that point. No longer capable of producing, it appears, of a tornado. Let me say again, it no longer appears capable of producing a tornado there as we're looking and as we're tracking. Officially, the warning still goes to 145, but they're not putting it extended, so it's not on the screen anymore. So we'll go with the severe thunderstorm warning information that they did update until 2 o'clock. The Weather Service at 1:37. Severe thunderstorms are located along a line extending from 9 miles southwest of Boston to 7 miles east of Florida A&M, moving east at about 40 miles an hour, 60-mile-an-hour wind gust, quarter-size hail. Tallahassee, Woodville, Monticello, Cody, Miccosukee Road, Greenway, Everett, Nashville, Miccosukee, Thomas City, Drifton, Killarney Estates, as well as Casa Blanco there. Casablanco, depending on how you want to pronounce that. And then you have Wakena. You have areas there like Miccosukee. We've talked about Lake Miccosukee, Appalachia Regional Park. So, again, giving you guys the very latest. A little bit of spin right here. Not overwhelming. Losing some of the wind, I think, but it could just be because we're so close to the Doppler radar. But again, I appreciate everybody tuning in here and trusting me. We're sticking with this, obviously, even without a tornado warning past 145 until we get a severe thunderstorm warning, any severe thunderstorm warning off the screen. We're going to stick with you here, giving you guys the latest on the different platforms. If you're watching, like on Facebook there, Twitter/X, YouTube, Twitch, any of those, I appreciate you tuning in, trusting me. I know if you're watching like on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you see more of this content where we have that weather information being provided here to keep you guys safe and informed. You have, that content on there. Just hit that subscribe button. You can hit that like button there too to let everybody know, that is something that, is worthy of, watching. And then it also spreads it where more people get to see it here in the future so they're aware of these severe weather dangers. So very important to keep in mind here as we're looking at the overall situation, as we're tracking things here this afternoon. Again, let's see what we have here. Just trying to give you guys the very latest. Folks watching from Lake Valdosta there, appreciate you guys tuning in. Appreciate you guys trusting me. Just want everybody here, of course, to, stay safe here with these inclement conditions. Just got a question, is the coast clear for northeast Tallahassee? Let's go ahead and check things here just a little bit more in terms of the overall situation. In terms of, like Bradfordville and the like, things are moving away from you guys there. The worst, still out toward Miccosukee, not so much so, out there, but around Bradfordville, you're kind of getting on that back edge now as we're looking at things and as we're tracking things, getting, like around Thomasville Road and the like there. It's a, better situation right now than it was. Things are, looking better now. If you're right in the box, I would say, just maybe another 5 minutes. Be careful if you're right here or something like that. But, after that, you're starting to be in a better spot. If you're still hearing rumbles of thunder, you probably still want to stay inside a little longer. But, the severe threat's starting to move away there. I know technically there's still a tornado warning, even though it's not showing here. It's technically still in play for another 3 minutes, but again, they're saying they're not extending it, not really seeing that type of spin here on the Doppler here at this point, and we're further away, and you're not seeing a whole bunch. There's a little bit of wind enhancement to about, let's see, 45, 50 moving into western Jefferson County around the Waukena area. As we're looking at these echoes here, that's something to keep in mind as we're looking at the overall situation. Let me go ahead and continue here to see what we have in terms of like power outages now. We're going to go ahead and look at some of that information. We have city of Tallahassee. It's over 1,000, but I want to see if I can get the updated number here directly from them. They have 1,649 customers in the dark now. 36 different areas of outages that amount to 1,649 customers affected now. City of Tallahassee power outages. So again, continuing to watch things very carefully here as we look, as we track. Again, trying to give you guys the very latest on what's going on. This is that one cluster, and it's showing signs of weakening in general, signs of decay now. We have that tornado watch. Let me see if they've extended that. We got busy with a warning. Let me see if they've done anything to extend that anymore or not. Okay, it looks like just till 2. I mean, they already had extended to 1 from this morning. Not sure they can really, I guess they could, but I don't think they'll extend it past 2 at this point. I wouldn't think here, based on what I'm seeing, to watch either. The warning's, going away now, but as we're looking at the overall situation, we're just trying to give you guys the very latest here on what's happening and what's going on. Again, trying to keep you guys up to date. Let me go ahead and see here what we might have on the Doppler. See a news warning for way further back. I don't think stuff like that would hold together in our area, but this is a thunderstorm warning way out there in the Panhandle. Yellow shading is a tornado watch for another 15 minutes. Let me go ahead and take some stuff off. I've been moving the models all around here. I know it's gonna look weird, but we're scrubbing. I know it was a little behind, but let's try to show another round coming in from the northwest about 3, 4 o'clock now on this, but let me see where it's trying to get that from. I guess it'd be this area here. Let me look here to see. There's an advisory on that, so let me look at it a little more carefully, just to make sure we don't have anything too crazy here. I'm seeing winds to about 45. The advisory is winds to about 40. Yeah, it's about the same thing there, of course. Using the similar products, I'm sure, to what I'm using looking at these storms. So we might get another warning or 2 out of that. Let's see how that's going. It does kind of train back into town, so nothing else is going to make things wet, which they need to rain. You guys need to rain there in Tallahassee, so definitely something to keep in mind there as we're looking at things, as we're tracking things. You definitely need that precip there toward the FSU campus and the FAMU campus and the Tallahassee State College campus there, and just state capitol and all the different yards in that region. Definitely need to rain. So we'll get some more of that. Probably just don't want to get more of the severe weather. Let's check I know you had to guess to 39. Let's check the temperature because we were in the 80s there. Let's see, it was 84. Now it's 72. So dropped 12 degrees there in the last little bit. So that's going to help stabilize things some, toward Leon County. I know it's a little warmer still, like in Gatston. Let me back that up. It was a little bit warmer in toward Gadsden earlier on too, but not now. Now, as we're looking and as we're tracking things, let me see a different look at things. And it's not really updating quite right, but it kind of gives an idea. It's a little behind, but, Wakulla's a little bit warmer still course, way warm to the east here with that fire danger. Let me see what we have in terms of all that as we look, as we track. Let's see if we have anything popping up here. I've been switching radars, so I have to check here. I'm just going to see if we have any new fire danger, in terms of actual reports. I know a viewer, Dan, there in Gatston County says that they got nothing more than a few minutes of heavy rain and some thunder. That's good news, and that you get some rain and you don't have the damage. Other folks in Gadsden weren't quite as lucky, unfortunately, though. As we look back here, as we track, let me see this report. Trees down in Quincy, additional trees down elsewhere in the county. So let me go ahead and I'm just kind of trying to look at some different information here. Trying to keep you guys up to date. Just trying to find out, make sure we don't have any wildfire situations here that are evolving. We still have like burn bans in a lot of places, of course. We had smoke around here in Bradford County where I'm at lately. I know back on Monday down in Gainesville, we had some smoke that was visible. I was down there in Alachua County on Monday, and definitely that smoke was telling that story as we were there, as we look across North Central Florida. But there's so many fires. We've had a situation in Lafayette County. I know we've been watching some fire concerns here lately now evolving. So, again, just trying to give you guys the very latest on everything here. I know, let me see that photo, Gainesville wildfire smoke on that Monday. We'll go ahead and pull that up in the graphics because, not great for air quality concerns and the like, obviously, and this, you don't want fires. It's just terrible what happened in Brantley County going back with that wildfire situation as we were looking back up there, all those homes that were lost. As we look up towards southeast Georgia, they're getting some rain coming through there now, on the periphery of it. But this is about, right here where some of that fire accident was the worst. You got some light rain coming on in there in Brantley County, east of Nahana, north of Atkinson. Got some of that rain coming on in. It's not overwhelming. Don't want the lightning to cause any issues, but it's some light rain, not severe weather. So that's generally good news up there. And let's go to rotation tracker. Not seeing too much right here. Had a little bit more earlier on. Not really seeing much on hail tracker. Had hail signatures earlier, even though it didn't really have much of a risk. That. It was mainly west of our area, though. As we're giving you guys the very latest here. I know we've got a viewer, Susie, asking about Madison County. Well, yeah, you guys are downstream of this. Let me look at some of the velocity readings here. I want to see if this looks more like a significant advisory for points downstream, or if this could be a severe thunderstorm warning for you guys. I'm looking off of Moody. Let me check Tallahassee. That kind of looks more like a significant weather advisory to me, where you get 40 to 50 mile an hour winds, as we get past 2 o'clock there. But they may go, with this being a little bit more robust at points, they may go to severe thunderstorm warning there as we look into Madison County. As we look at the situation, they may go with a severe thunderstorm warning. We South see weather service in Tallahassee, but this definitely seems to be weakening. Right when you're close to the radar, it's harder to tell, but it's starting to get further away. Doesn't look too crazy. Let me look, Monticello area, I-10. Let's get a traffic camera up here as we track here the situation. I know it's definitely wet out there. And we'll go ahead and see that view now. Give you that Florida 511 perspective. Again, trying to give you guys the very latest here on what's going on. Just trying to keep you informed. Again, updating you guys on everything. Just letting you guys know what's happening here. Just want to be careful on the roads. Let me see what else I can effort. I know it's already starting to get out of the box and they haven't issued a new warning yet. So, probably leaning more toward an advisory here, but we'll continue to watch. We'll continue to monitor, things. I'm just trying to watch the overall situation. Going through some of the different details here in the Weather Center. I know we definitely need the rain. A situation there. I know in Lafayette County this morning, they had to make a decision pretty late on this. They actually gone ahead and canceled school in Lafayette County because of smoke and fog mixture this morning. That wildfire situation down there. As you see, a new warning did just pop up, though. This goes now to 2:45. We're talking about Jefferson, Taylor, Madison counties. So Jefferson, Northern Taylor, and Madison counties now. With a severe thunderstorm warning at 1:52, severe thunderstorms are looking at a line extending from 9 miles northeast of Monticello to 11 miles northeast of Woodville, moving east at about 35 miles an hour. So maybe a little bit less forward speed. These storms are starting to weaken some here as we're looking, as we've alluded to over the last little bit, and that's great news. But again, we still have to be very cognizant. Still have to remain on guard here with some of this storm activity. A little bit of weak spin there right around Wakena. Again, trying to give you guys all these latest updates. So severe thunderstorm warning to 2:45 now. Jefferson, Northern Taylor, and Madison counties. Monticello, Madison, Perry, Greenville, Lee, Cody, Lamont, Hamburg, Thomas City, Lovett, Wakena. Again, still trying to update you guys. Just effort and everything here. It's so important to be on top of things. They're still a little warmer down toward Perry. They're 83 degrees there in Taylor County. By the way, getting some more warnings back here now. Some hail production possible, which is kind of interesting. Some of that probably would be something. Let's just track it out. And I gotta run this loop through here. Let's just watch this angle, and then might go just north of our area, but we'll see on that. But further up in South Georgia later, we'll see if that holds together. But again, Jefferson County, we have that potential there. Monticello right now coming through Drifton, Wakena, Wassissa, and Lamont next few minutes as we're looking there. Greenville, Madison. Definitely trying to keep you guys up to date here on what's going on. I know, as you're looking at some of these maps here, I know Lamont actually is where the late Ted Turner, that's where he was living, and that's where he passed away there, down there in Jefferson County. The icon there involved with the Atlanta Braves and with CNN and Turner, obviously there in terms of Turner Sports and the like. So definitely getting some heavy rain coming on in there as we're looking. I know thoughts and prayers go to his family, friends during this difficult time. As we look here, down there in toward the Florida Big Bend region. I know Dan talking about not seeing any tornadic activity in any of the Florida storms. Yeah, definitely not in what we're seeing in our area. Not seeing much rotation, not seeing a lot of wind damage potential. I'm a little surprised. I mean, let's check the parity numbers in Tallahassee, a little over 2,000. This is kind of on what you would call the marginal side to keep a warning going here. But they're inside of costs in the Tallahassee office. They might drop the severe thunderstorm warning early if the trends continue. But let's check the angle from the northeast. Just yeah, I'm not seeing a lot here. 40 miles an hour, give or take, around the I-10 corridor. I mean, still some purples showing up on radar, but it doesn't look overwhelming here. So far, we haven't had too many reports out of Tallahassee considering what we could have had, but it's still kind of early, so you'd have to give it a little more time to make sure. But as we look at things, as we track things here, let's pull up a traffic camera. Still not fun conditions, still pretty nasty there, as we're looking at the overall situation. I-10 mile marker 227, you can see the wet roads for sure, telling that other story there as we're looking there at the view. Again, telling the storyline about what's going on, letting you guys know what's happening there with the overall meteorological pattern. Again, just got to be careful because, it doesn't take severe weather to have an accident, unfortunately, in slick conditions. Just got to be very mindful, obviously, as we're looking, as we're tracking. Just, really got to be paying attention on it. Some of these areas, too, when you think about Jefferson County, you really started to get into the area hard hit by Helene, and it becomes, really hard hit as you get closer to the coast. But, I mean, they were hard hit up into where like Lowndes County in Georgia as well. And Jefferson got hit bad by both Dahlia and Helene. As we're looking back into world weather history. In fact, let me see that graphic where, it's a subjective analysis, but I think it helps, because you still have, maybe, it's one thing about Michael, been a little longer, but you still have, like, in some spots there, maybe not every little thing's been completely fixed there from Helene. As we look out toward Jefferson County and Madison County and Taylor County, for instance, the worst tropical cyclone to hit those areas, in my, opinion, since, started naming them there in 1950. So again, there's something to be mindful of there for sure in terms of that, these storms can cause, more damage. They can cause more damage here as we're looking and as we're tracking. They have more, in that there's just, more vulnerabilities here is what I'm saying. It might not take 60-mile-an-hour wind to knock some of the, vulnerable things down. So, I mean, other areas, same deal, but, this may be a little bit easier to have damage happen a little bit earlier with the wind threshold. So, again, something to kind of bear in mind here as we're looking at things and as we're tracking things. Just trying to give you guys the very latest here on what's going on. I know it's always important to hear, be, on top of things. Just trying to let you know the whole storylines here, obviously, with everything that's happening in the meteorological picture. Again, the tornado warning's been gone a little bit for Tallahassee now. So far, haven't seen any damage. It's a couple thousand customers in the dark, so probably a little bit of damage. Don't necessarily think that was from a tornado because we didn't see the brief signature on the radar. But again, we'll just continue to be tracking things here, obviously. We'll continue to be monitoring things here. I know, but we talked about Helene. Some of these areas that were hit so hard. We're in a drought now, but we had all that rain, all that wind, all that, just awfulness there coming on in. A terrible night. Storm surge coming on into the coast that we had to have people flee from, obviously. Just an awful, awful situation there in Ward Taylor County. You can see that this was that view on the radar when it was hidden there. Just an awful scenario and this is actually, I went to the wrong one. It's the preliminary graphic there because I still have them both in here, but let me get the one here that's actually the one after the fact because those numbers change just slightly. Well, I mean, it tells a story, but let me go ahead and what we'll do here. We'll try to get that up for you. Let me see if I can find that one. Okay, yeah, this is the one I meant to show you, the actual finalized numbers here with the Helene impact. Just an awful, awful situation. but the year before we had a Dahlia come on through. We thought that was going to be the worst storm, the generation for that area. It wasn't even on that graphic I saw, but it would have been on that graphic for a lot of places a year before. But Helene one-upped it. It's an area that didn't get hit much by tropical cyclones, and it got hit 2 years in a row. Today's storm's nothing like that, but still, there's those vulnerabilities that can be, those vulnerabilities that can definitely be, taken advantage of a little bit easier because of what happened. I know we have Susie talking about a lot of thunder moving in there around areas in North Madison County, and definitely that, tropical action's so impactful. There's so many different storms, in the country that can be, you know, just, dangerous here. This over the years, Ida's one of yours mentioning, just watching now, AJ talking about things calming down. You're not seeing the rotation right now, which is great news. The threat's been, really getting out of Tallahassee, not in Leon County anymore. We'll watch some of this stuff back behind to see if we get anything, but that looks a little weaker now. That's quite a bit weaker, so that's good. Maybe after this starts to wane, we'll be kind of done with this. I know it is past 2 now, so the tornado watch is no longer in effect. That's good news. That went away at 2 o'clock, so that's what we like to see, obviously. But we still have this severe thunderstorm warning for that area around the I-10 corridor. That I-10 corridor here, as we're looking in toward the Madison area of Greenville, Madison. Definitely continuing to track all that here for you in toward the weather center. So just trying to give you guys the very latest on that. Gather all the latest details here again. Let's see, not too many outages, if any, in toward Madison County. It looks like what a viewer's telling us there, Susie. And yeah, definitely, it's kind of early too, but this didn't cause that many outages in Tallahassee compared, to past, obviously, tornado warned events, a couple thousand. So that's not too bad according to what I was looking at there. So hopefully that's some good news here in general as we're looking at the overall situation. I just have to always stay on guard. I know we're always trying to give you guys the latest here on all the different platforms. I know I appreciate you guys watching. Like most of you guys, it looks like about 57 viewers on YouTube watching right now, according to what I have in front of me. And I know sometimes, I have it on a streaming system, so it might update a little bit different on the YouTube platform itself. But if you're watching over on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you know about future, live streams here that, when I'm on for my 38 county area here, you're able to, know what's happening in terms of everything that's going on here. In terms of the overall storyline, it's just so important to, be mindful here of what we're, tracking. Let me remind you guys of the coverage area here. I know we can talk more about this when we don't have any active, tornado warnings. But, I'm in Bradford County, but we cover 38 counties. It was 62, but we're updating things, really enhancing things as we look ahead with a lot more, forecast updates even coming here very soon. And, it's a situation here where, we're always on for any tornado warning storms. We've been through these 38 counties. We were just on for that one with that rotation in Leon County here right near Thomasville Road just a little while ago. So been on for every tornado warning storm within my covered area since late 2019. It's all about protecting you, your friends, your family here as we look at the overall weather storyline. So again, I appreciate everybody tuning in, watching me, trusting me here this afternoon. Trying to give you the very latest. We hope it's a day where we just have more of that beneficial rain and anything. I know Stark area not going to really have that though, as it's just so dry. The humidity values here, it's just going to be hard to get too much rain over here. Definitely not expecting severe weather this far east. So, that's the good news. But we need the rain. We really need that rain for sure as we're looking at things and as we're tracking things. So. Again, just trying to give you guys the very latest on what's going on. You see that severe thunderstorm warning from about Perry to Madison. As we're looking in that area, that progressing here, the storm activity. Right now it's around Greenville, the Greenville community. Let me go ahead and see that here on the map. Again, you can see in Jefferson County watching some of this here. I'm just trying to give you guys the very latest here, what's going on. Trying to let you guys know what we're down with. This is so important here. Very important here to be on top of the overall weather situation. You just want to be mindful here. You want to be vigilant. So again, keeping you guys updated there. So around Greenville, that community, we're going to get more information back in 60 seconds. So keep it right here on Cloud Weather. We'll keep you guys up to date. We're going to take a quick break here. Just keep it right here on the live stream. We'll have more on the severe thunderstorm warning and the details on that in just a moment. Stay tuned, everybody. In the last half decade or so, our area and the region have been through a lot. Stay safe, but it's going to be memorable. I was there around 4 p.m. to document them. Life-threatening situation here. So, again, that's the storyline there. Oh, I think we just had another power flash. Another power flash. Sometimes Bradford County is a tough spot to see a spin-up tornadoes, so we just want you to go ahead and be inside and away from windows. Can't even completely rule out a quick spin-up tornado, so things have started to escalate here. Please take shelter. This is going to cause a lot of damage. Radar-confirmed tornado in southeastern Georgia. We're seeing areas there around Perry bear the brunt of this, coming into these communities and ravaging them. That's why we got to get you guys out. You got to run from that water. You got to evacuate. You got to follow these orders. This is as serious of a situation I've seen. This is the eye wall. This is where some of the worst of the weather is. When hazardous weather threatens, trust Clouds Weather. Back here in the Weather Center, again, giving you guys the very latest. It's 2:09. It's a thunderstorm warning. Still in effect here for another little bit, all the way out to about 2:45 for portions of Jefferson, Madison, and Taylor counties. So just got to stay vigilant out there as we're looking at the overall meteorological situation. It's just, really interesting, to be watching how we're going to have the dry air kind of come on in now, with these storms and that interaction, which will kind of reduce that, storm threat, especially as we get to words like Stark here. I know we just got an advisory for 45 to 55 mile-an-hour gusts being possible, though. Live Oak up through Jasper area over the next little bit. That's through about 3 o'clock or so. So definitely interesting to watch, definitely interesting to monitor here in terms of everything in the Weather Center. I know I'm looking at all my different sources here behind the scenes as we've been on for a while, but again, always about giving you guys the very latest on what's going on. It's just so important here to do all that as we're letting you guys know the storyline. We're just trying to let you guys know what is happening here. We don't want you guys to be, caught off guard here for sure. Just don't want, things to surprise you guys here. Again, still with you, trying to let you guys know the storyline. Just going through all the updates. We had that tornado warning earlier for Tallahassee from about 1:18 to about 1:45. We're watching that rotation around Thomasville Road, which is kind of not a fun, thing. We had some school buses even going by on some of the traffic cameras, which wasn't ideal either. So definitely important to keep an eye on things. I know, we've had just, I know earlier this afternoon looking out here east of Stark in between updates. Have a picture here to show you guys of interesting cloud structures. I mean, you can kind of see what I'm talking about here. This tells a story about, we've had that situation where we had that drier air that it's been so hot to the east, while off toward the west, we've had the storm activity. So yeah, this is a view here east of Stark looking there at the sky earlier on as we're looking and as we're tracking things. I know we have that, far weather concern here further off as we're looking here though. Definitely have to be very mindful of things. I know, just gonna check. I'm just trying to make sure we don't have any fires. If you're wondering why I'm zooming in over here, just want to make sure we don't have anything crazy going on as we're looking off toward the east here on the Doppler perspective. Just want to make sure that nothing's getting out of hand. It can be kind of hard sometimes, the different anomalies on the Doppler to determine things, but I know we still have our severe thunderstorm warning further back toward the west. A little bit of wind enhancement in eastern Jefferson north of Lamont there. You can see some rotation further. I mean, when I say rotation, let me not get you hyped up. It's weak rotation. But there's a little bit of that, as we're looking there, you have the wind. It's coming from the Moody radar, so you have winds that are going away into ward, but it's broad. It's not a tornadic circulation or anything there. But some winds to about 50 showing up on the Doppler right now. That's what we're seeing right now with the very latest. Putting some of these wind numbers back on here, getting those updates. Back west of the area, we have a hail-producing storm potentially there in southern Alabama. $half size hail possible. That's moving toward Dothan. It probably head just north of our area, but we'll see. Good clip, Decatur County or something later on. It's, kind of hard sometimes to tell, but yeah, this movement looks more northerly. So, our old area, up toward Albany might have some issues with that later on, but, not necessarily toward Decatur and Grady and Thomas counties as we're looking and as we're tracking. As we get back on the severe thunderstorm, though, a little bit of wind enhancement back in here. Just don't want to let your guard down. It doesn't seem like at least there's quite as much electrical energy out of this, though, either, which is good. Signs of weakening. Let me check our instability. Let me pull some of that up. Because we had about 2,300 or so earlier. Now it's in an area with about 2,000. So it's dropped just a little bit there. Not as much as maybe you would think. Supercell composite still up and still over the tornado parameter holding on, not overwhelming. But see, there is a report now of some damage around Tallahassee. A tree was reported down on Blairstone and East Park Avenue around the Governor Square Mall. 118 is when that report is, from. So that information is coming on in here toward the Weather Center. Again, I appreciate you guys watching here this afternoon as I give you guys the very latest information here to protect you, your friends, and your family. It's just so important here to stay on top of these inclement weather situations. So, I know, looking at some of the comments here, again, I just appreciate everybody watching. I guess I missed that earlier on. At least it was talking about got almost 2 inches of rain there from that tornado warning storm there in northeast Tallahassee. So, yeah, a good bit of rain in toward that area there for sure. Look back at the estimates here. These are going to be underdone some, I'm sure. This says over an inch up there, but let me go to the high res because 2 inches is probably pretty accurate there, right in that area. As we look, as we track, I know radar's showing, 1 to 2 inches in some of these spots. Some spots a little bit under that, but once you get in that yellow, you're talking about, Nancy oranges, you get a little bit more than that. So some of these reds here showing about a little over 2 inches here in northern parts of Jefferson County. So again, trying to give you guys the very latest here. Some wind aloft showing up. I don't necessarily think that's reaching because of the angle on that, but it's interesting. I think it's becoming displaced a little bit. So this is, it's going to be harder to get the wind down to the surface. Just the way it's not oriented quite right. The wind's kind of back behind a little bit. I mean, of course, it can have wind. It's just that it doesn't look quite right there to be, with the storm itself. So, again, just trying to keep you guys up to date here. Trying to give you guys the very latest on everything that's going on this afternoon. Let me check some of the other radar angles here. By the way, inside hail confirmed back out toward the west there. I know there's been some traffic issues like toward Crestview area earlier on too, around I-10, but you see around areas here further east. Some wind there around the Greenville area along I-10. It would seem, as we head toward Madison there. So, again, just trying to give you guys the very latest here on what's going on. Just letting you guys know the storyline. Looking at some of the cameras, not seeing a whole bunch, but because of different angles. But okay, now This one does have a lot now in the live view, though. So let me go ahead and throw it on up. Some nasty conditions, mile marker 245. Again, telling that other story. These nasty conditions there for sure. Not what you want to see. Just letting you guys know exactly what's happening. It's not ideal weather there to be traveling in for sure. This doesn't look great. Look at all that wind there. Reduced visibility. Again, just not fun weather conditions to have to be out and about in. So again, giving you guys the very latest. This is going to be the worst of this. Be out of this box here. I mean, it's displaced some with the wind, but with the radar echoes, it's starting already to get toward Madison. To be out of it before 2:45 with the worst, the leading edge. So we'll see what the Weather Service does. I know it's tricky because that's Jacksonville there. So they made us do a significant advisory, and unless Jacksonville right wants to issue a severe thunderstorm warning on it. But let me check some power outage numbers to see if there's a reason that we need to have another severe thunderstorm warning. Again, the numbers I've seen, not necessarily justifying that, but let me see what type of power outage numbers we have. Leon County had about 2,600, but as we get to the east, Jefferson, Madison, Hamilton, not really seeing them there so far. Taylor, but then 61 in Swanee, but that could be anything. Out ahead, a little bit of gust there to like 13 you see on the screen, but Leon a couple thousand. That we've had way worse. As we look out that way, fast events. Severe thunderstorms. I mean, that's not nothing, but it's not overwhelming, which is great. Again, continuing to watch this here for you. We had the one damage report, near the mall there in Tallahassee, but I'll back it up. You can see there's a tree reported down on Blairstone and East Park Avenue. But a little bit of lightning still there. Not overwhelming, though, is what I'm going with, though, in terms of that overall impact. So, again, just something to kind of be very mindful of. Something to be cognizant of here in the Weather Center as we give you guys the very latest. Just always like to stay on top of things. Hopefully we'll start to be able to wind things down with our severe weather coverage. Not quite yet. We still got no warning, but in a little bit, and then we'll be back later tonight with that formal update. We still have more rain chances in the days to come, for that Mother's Day weekend, unfortunately. So I have to be mindful of that. Maybe some more severe chances. These are all kind of conditional here. That's why we didn't have the logo red on our Tuesday night update, but we were, talking about the potential of this today, and we saw some of this come into play. I haven't seen just overwhelming damage reports locally. I mean, nothing like what they had in Mississippi there yesterday. Just awful damage there. Multiple tornado emergencies in play as we're looking and as we're tracking into where that zone. By the way, we just get here in the last hour or so at least. I know we've been kind of busy with that tornado warning, but we do have a new SPC outlook for tomorrow. And we have a local risk now for tomorrow, just a small one that's been introduced here. So let me go ahead and say that. Let me get that up in the system. It's not for a tornado, but it's for wind and hail. So let me go ahead and show this to you here momentarily once I get in the system. We have a marginal risk now for that Friday. There you go. You can see that dark green there telling that story. It's a big risk there in terms of, going all the way through Missouri, back to Oklahoma and Texas, Louisiana. It's a small one, just 1 out of 5. It's severe potential, for most of our counties here, as we're looking, especially in North Florida tomorrow. So, getting up into South Georgia, not necessarily Southeast Georgia, but, some wind and hail possibility, even around Stark and Gainesville on that Friday. So I'll be watching that here, obviously, as we track here. I know different things, going on here. And FSU softball, they played earlier on today on a neutral side in one in their ACC tournament play. I know So that's not around here for weather to impact. Now, let me check some of the other events. So baseball, let's see. Okay, baseball. You have baseball in Gainesville tomorrow against Kentucky. We'll have to see if the weather impacts that. And then FSU baseball, the Noles, they're coming off that midweek win against JU. They're up at Clemson, South Carolina Friday night to take on the Tigers. So, the weather up that way on that Friday night. Well, we're talking about a situation where may not be too bad. 50s, 60s, as we're looking in terms of temperatures. Sunday might be the day where we have some precip up that way, but we'll be watching that situation there as we look at the overall forecast. It all depends on timing. I'm just looking at it in a real broad sense here. As we watch, I see Sunday's the nationally ESPN2 televised games, so Saturday the ACC network. So obviously, I know they want to be getting that game in on national TV. I think last year was against Clemson. They had a weather issue, and it was a bigger broadcast. So that was a home game there, not too long after the tragedy at FSU there in April last year, 2025. But again, just trying to give you guys the very latest here. Madison County, Madison. You have Lee, the community of Lee there. You have Sherman, you have Sadie Grove, you have Greenville. Again, some heavy rain. Now, Live Oak could get 45 to 55 mile-an-hour winds. Lake City, I think this will be weakening more as it gets there, but let me check some of my instability numbers. I know we'll go ahead and go over to that product here. They're still up some. I mean, we'll see in a second. Again, let me go ahead and give you guys the very latest here. You can see it. We have, right now we're at a warning. Some of this orange is over 2,000 joules per kilogram of energy. It was about 2,300 earlier. Where we're watching still is around Tallahassee in some ways. It's kind of interesting because we have some stuff back behind, but it's kind of more spread out. It'd be harder to take advantage of, but this can maintain a little bit. The Live Oak, yes, maintain. It may only be this high, end of strong versus severe now, though. So maintain might only mean it's going to be a strong storm toward Live Oak, not a severe storm. Same for the Lake City area as we give you guys the very latest information. So again, just letting you guys know what the storyline is here. This is pretty marginal right now from what I'm seeing, which is great news, but still want to be here for you. Haven't had that many severe storms this year with all the drought that we've been in. Severe warnings anyway. I know we've got a new warning out here that this could end up, again, we don't go on for Albany anymore, but this could end up getting some severe warnings up there. Let me just track it out for you while we're on Dothan, and then up there, toward like Blakely and Damascus, and maybe Elmodale and Putney, Albany, Sylvester. We'll see. I mean, it's getting pretty far out. It's a few hours probably out. I mean, east at 45. So let's say like small storm 2 to be severe, but the hailstorms can do that. That's an hour or two out, as we're looking maybe a couple hours out from the Albany area, give or take. So that's something to watch as that kind of moves east-northeast up there. But golf ball size hail possible. So that can be considerable damage producing. It'd be such a small storm. That's kind of interesting to see. It might be a sign of, things to come, like, as we look at tomorrow's risk getting that big. We'll have to be kind of watchful. Make sure things don't overachieve on us here. A little bit of lightning starting us up in northern Liberty County and the Panama City DMA. And you have Madison there, the city. You have Hanson, you have Shermans. Some heavy downpours in here, but the winds don't, this is on the back side. I don't think that's really reaching. We still have a warning. So we got, as the old saying goes, James Spann, the legendary meteorologist in Alabama, says respect to polygon. So, and it just continuing it here. So we still got to keep, just in case, just in case that could happen. Don't want to lay your guard down. But severe thunderstorm warning canceled for Jefferson. The warning, there, the warm storm moving out of that area. They're still keeping tornado possible tag on this till 2:45. At 2:24, severe thunderstorms, they were located there along a line. As we're tracking this, it looks like from near Madison to 16 miles northwest of Perry, moving east at 40 miles an hour. Madison, Perry, Greenville, Lee, Ebb, as well as Mosley Hall. You have Cherry Lake, you have Hamburg, you have areas there as we're tracking Lake Bird. You have Hanson, Sermon, that general vicinity. The warning still is continuing for the time being. We'll just have to see what. I know this is still Tallahassee in here, but this is Jacksonville. And they could draw another polygon up in here, but probably more so it'd be kind of dependent on what Jacksonville does to see if there's a polygon that bridges the gap or not. But I know Lafayette County, other storyline, we've had a fire situation. That might be it, actually. Let me look. Yeah, that's the fire, I think, there in Lafayette. They've had a combination of smoke and fog that shut down schools today in Lafayette County with the wildfire situation down there. So that's not fun at all. We'll talk about that real quick while we're looking down there. So let me, as we look here at the classification, that blue indicates smoke there. Crazy to have that in severe weather toward the north and west, but that's how it's been. We have that drought and the like, but I know Lafayette County there, as we're looking, sheriff's office been keeping tabs on things. They were posting about smoke, in the area there. All roads were open as of earlier on. But yeah, smoke fog, there was concern, that combination, that they had to just go ahead and not have school there today in toward that area, which is not good. I know, so those type of conditions, not allowing, for that in terms of these, nasty ones. So I know, again, giving you guys the very latest here. I'm going to remind you guys, this for whatever day, if we have fog, smoke mix, because we're like feet behind with the rain, so we're going to be in the drought a while. But, smoke, fog mixing, you had it at Paynes Prairie about 15 years ago, the terrible traffic tragedy there. There's so many fatalities. You just got to always watch out with this fog in general. Just slow down and give yourself extra time to reach your destination. Make sure your vehicle is visible as possible to other vehicles, but, low beam headlights, and leave plenty of room between you and that vehicle in front of you. So very important to keep in mind. We're going to go ahead and jump back on over here to the Doppler radar presentation right now. I know we could still have gusts to about, as I'm looking here at some of my numbers, still here in this dark area, we could have gusts there to about 28 miles an hour this afternoon. And the humidity is picked up, went up some as some of this kind of comes in, which is good, but still a little bit on the lower side here. Just in the region, we have that red flag warning as we're looking off toward the east. We have that concern further off toward the east here for sure. As we're looking at things and as we're tracking them, there you go, popping on up on the map here now. That's 8 o'clock, Nassau, Duval, Clay, St. John's, Putnam, Flagler. We have that, it's a fire weather warning, the other name, the lower humidities, higher winds, the drought combination. That's where you could have the highest potential for some fire hazards, breaking on out here, unfortunately. Just got to be, very mindful here, obviously. We've had so many issues, Brantley County, we're never going to forget what happened up there. They're getting some light rain right now, which is helpful, in toward that area. It's better than just the alternative, and also the alternative is severe weather, like what we're getting further back off toward the west here, as we're looking at that Doppler presentation. So, that potential at least. I know that is, this shows up as something, but I think that's on the back end. I don't think that's necessarily reaching. Again, trying to give you guys the very latest here on what we're down with. South of I-10, some of that potential, but it's covering I-10 as well. Trying to get from Jacksonville to Tallahassee or something, and from Madison, you're getting into some heavy rain, maybe some gusty winds there in that area along the I-10 interstate corridor. So, in fact, let's go ahead and pull a traffic camera up there right now. We'll try to let you guys get a visual there, a window to the world. Some of these areas you don't want to be looking out the windows, so here's a way, kind of, sort of, to look out a window here per se. Nobody has a window right there at the interstate probably, but not in that area, but, still it's helpful to kind of give you guys the very latest on what's going on. Definitely got to take it slow there on the interstate, on the road. Looks like some maybe produce there. That vehicle, but again, kind of look like watermelon. But anyway, as we're going ahead and giving you guys the very latest here, trying to give you guys the very latest on what's going on. Trying to inform you guys here. Definitely need that rain. At least we're getting some of that, but we don't want the severe weather here as we're looking and as we're tracking things. This is a view at mile marker 253 there in toward parts of the viewing circle this afternoon with this severe weather. Again, the big story too here, for like north central Florida, this is not expected to hold together towards dark. Maybe for some light rain, but not for that severe weather potential. So that's good news, obviously. Not expecting any watches or anything, along those lines as we get further downstream. But we just got a new severe thunderstorm warning into Live Oak. So we're going to be with you a little bit longer, it looks like, as we're looking towards Suwannee and Hamilton counties now. Jacksonville out and Tallahassee's going to now bridge that gap. They think there's enough potential here, enough potential that, they're going to issue a warning here as well now as we're looking at the overall scenario. Let me take that fire weather alert off. But okay, so 2:33 p.m. Severe thunderstorm complex located along a line extending from near Madison to 13 miles northwest of Perry, moving east at 40 miles an hour. Northwestern Lafayette, northeastern Taylor, southeastern Madison counties in the Big Bend of Florida. 60-mile-an-hour wind gust, quarter size hail. You're talking about Madison, Lee, Lake Bird, you have Mosley Hall, Chansey, as well as Hopewell. You have Day, you have Shady Grove, you have Mayo Junction. You also have the Jacksonville office that issued a warning further east. They're talking about northwestern Suwannee and central Hamilton counties until 3:15. At 2:31, a severe thunderstorm was located near Madison. They're tracking east at 40 miles an hour, 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts, penny-size hail. Live Oak, Jasper, Suwannee Springs, Suwannee River State Park, Blue Springs, and Crossroads under this warning here with that potential 60-mile-an-hour winds and 3/4 inch hail for the Jacksonville office. Tallahassee has a hail at an inch, but they're not going with the tornado possible tag anymore. So that's some good news. But still going to be watching things, still got to be tracking things, trying to keep you guys informed, trying to let you know exactly what's going on here. It's so important to stay on top of different hazards here in the meteorology world. You just always want to be on top of these situations here. We don't want you guys to let your guard down, even if they're not, maybe overwhelming signatures. I know in summertime, we're always watching things. We're always watching things, a little more closely as we're looking at the overall scenarios. As we look at the overall scenarios here, because things can just rapidly evolve within 5 minutes. Things can, uptick or downtick here as we're looking at the weather situation. So you just have to kind of be mindful here of what we're dealing with, what we're tracking. I know one thing I don't like seeing these gusts of winds over like 20 without any rain here in north central Florida, though. Again, we have that fire weather alert, because of these winds and the dry, humidity, lower humidity values, the dry ground, not great. And then to look back out here, though, look out here toward parts of Madison County. So 3 o'clock, we have that new warning, 60-mile-an-hour wind gust. Definitely watching that potential. Definitely have to be very mindful. Again, I really do appreciate everybody tuning in here this afternoon. If you haven't already hit that subscribe button here, you haven't hit that subscribe button. It's just as helpful for you to be able to see coverage in the future, and also more people to see coverage in the future of, maybe bigger events, higher end weather events than even what we had today. I mean, we had a good number of warnings, not a lot of damage, but still, it's always important to be vigilant. Whenever thunder roars, you got to go indoors. Dangerous lightning, heavy rain. We did have a tornado warning right in Tallahassee too, which was a cause for concern. So again, just have to be very mindful of all this. You have to be very cognizant. You have to just stay weather aware, as we're looking at everything here in the meteorology world. You just have to be paying attention here. You can't be You can't be just not watching because things can catch you off guard moment by moment sometimes. You don't want to be caught off guard here as we're looking at things, as we're watching the Doppler scans and the like. So again, we now have these two warnings continuing. We have this one here until 3 o'clock. You have this one here until 3:15. Again, just trying to see here what we're dealing with. You can see not a lot on the wind mode, to be completely honest with you. See about 45 miles an hour of wind there at about 3,000 feet. And really, when you start having damage, it's closer to 60. These areas are a little more vulnerable. I mean, even out here, because of what happened with Hurricane Helene, and maybe that's why they're doing this. The offices, Tallahassee and Jackson, because of that damage, it seems like it's really marginal to honestly to keep this, and these warnings going here. But maybe they think there's more vulnerability here because of what happened during Helene and Idalia. There's still, some issues in terms of just here and there. Maybe damage is a little bit easier to achieve. I mean, let's remind you guys, we're talking, areas there. Let me zoom on the radar first to see where I'm talking. But, you have areas out here, where we have the warning. This is not quite in the warning. I mean, part of it kind of is Dallin Park. But, Dallin Park there and Helene was bad there as well. As we were looking, it was very bad, out there. I have pictures from Idalia, though, to show you. And one of those is from Dallin Park there in Suwannee County. So, again, look at all that damage there. This was 1 week after Idalia, and then Helene was even worse. Idalia was that, storm of record for a year. Then Helene took its place. Now, these storms are nothing like that, obviously, but these storms, can definitely pack a punch. And if there's still maybe somewhere, power line got repaired, but there's a tree that's still kind of leaning, maybe it unfortunately falls on that power line here because of what, Helene did or Idalia did. Even Debbie, obviously, had that impact there as well as we were looking, as we were tracking things of the overall weather scenario. So again, just got to be cognizant here with the overall meteorology. There's a social science aspect here you got to be aware of sometimes, just messaging. I mean, people are a little more concerned, but also there's just the, hyper local impact there on the geography because there might be things that are a little more vulnerable, that might be a little bit more vulnerable there. So it's got to be keeping that all in mind. I mean, as we're looking, as we're watching things, as we keep you guys up to date here, it's just so important to be paying attention here as we watch everything with that Doppler. You just don't want to be, caught off guard. You don't want to be caught off guard. I know there's like cross sea. Well, this may stay north of them, as we watch. Looks like we did get some more reports now to Tallahassee. So let's go back over here, though. We've got some delayed reports now that came on in. So let's go ahead and go over all these. Quite a bit more now than what we had earlier on, even though the power outage numbers didn't look too bad. Looks like we got quite a few in. Let me see something about these here real quick. Bear with me. We have just about 1,500 still out in Tallahassee, according to powder.us. Yeah, it looks like they just put these in here in the last little bit. The Tallahassee office, last half hour or so. Some of these reports, these delayed reports here, they don't show up but so far back unless you go back on here. Sometimes if they do it after a certain period, they won't show up unless I do it. So here you go. A tree reported down on East Park Avenue near Victory Garden. I mean, this might be part of the reason why, they kind of had extended these warnings because there was a little bit more damage. We also hadn't had a lot of this wind lately, so really not taking quite as much. But we talked about, some of that issue, there's issues down toward like Blurstone and East Park Avenue. Yes, I have a report of electrical lines reported down on Olson Road and Raymond Dill Road there on Killarn Estates. This here trees reported down on Old Bainbridge Road near Dansboro Drive and Fred George Road, and a tree reported down on North Monroe Street. So this was at 106. This was also at 106 based on the estimates here. This is at 118 on Killarn Estates where electrical lines reported down. This is at 118 or so, and the same there, the estimated times. So as we're looking, as we're tracking. You see further up 112, you had trees reported down in North Meridian, and that area there. As we're looking, I'm not sure how to pronounce that other road, to be completely honest with you, but uh, I'm a Mona Farms Road. If that sounds anything remotely familiar, that's something like that there. But North Meridian's the predominant road in that area. So we had quite a few reports, not just overwhelming, but I mean, that's, multiple trees. This is a tree, trees, multiple electrical lines, a tree, and another tree. So a decent number there now of damage reports around Tallahassee. It doesn't sound like tornadic weather right off. It sounds like severe weather coming through, but we still had that potential a little bit as we get back to the current radar, though, right now, as we look at the overall situation. So, again, just trying to give you guys the latest updates here. Trying to keep you guys informed on what's going on. And we're just trying to let you know the storyline here. Trying to update you. Again, just checking some of the different sources here. We're here with you guys. Again, I appreciate everybody tuning in and trusting me. Just going through some information here behind the scenes. I know our system's acting as if Twitter's having an issue with the stream, but it looks like it's working good on my end. But if there is any issue on that and you're watching over there, go over to YouTube there at Cloud Weather, for instance, as we continue. But again, just trying to give you guys the very latest here. Trying to keep you up to date. Again, looks like we still got a feed over there. It's saying it's not working. I'm just trying to, I'm a one-man band, so I got to make sure we're on. Granted, I am seeing a little bit of an enhancement north of Perry. Let me look at this real quick. Just a little bit there north of Perry. Maybe moving toward the Day and Lauraville areas over next little bit. Not too far from Dallin Park. Some of this, I mean, honestly, that polygon there, I mean, you see more on the pink-purple sides, but more the wind back in here. So, again, this looks more, on that really marginal side, but we'll still continue to watch. Still continue to track. Yeah, okay, it looks like we're getting a feed on Twitter now for sure. I think it must have had a little bit of an issue, but it looks good on my end here. It's saying it's good on the streaming system as well. But just want to make sure. We're just trying to keep you guys up to date. Always about protecting you, always about protecting your friends, your family, all those different platforms. Again, we had that tornado warning for Tallahassee. That was the big headline here in our area today. We have some more lightning coming in here and there. And thunder roars go indoors, of course. But we try to get this radar all the way back here. We'll try to loop it around. I may have to go to the other source. Okay, I didn't want to go all the way back, but you can see some of those damage reports, not necessarily tornadic, though, in nature. But we'll go ahead and let me see the broad view. You can see there's that yellow box in Alabama, and then there's warnings there to Swanee River Valley's way. I'm going to get a loop together here real quick for everybody at home on what we've been watching, what we've been tracking. If you're just tuning in, we're going to get that loop up on the screen now, I think, and the tornado watch is no longer in effect. You can see how we had these tornado warnings to the west, and they kind of went away, but then we still just enough spin right around Tallahassee to get a tornado warning for a bit. So we had quite a bit of wind damage reports. It wasn't just overwhelming, but that population, just so many different areas that can have theoretically damage. You can get a good bit, even if it's not that bad of a storm in general. Nothing like May of 2024's event for sure, but still, still concerning, obviously. When you have a tornado warning right there near Thomasville Road, for instance, with that spin showing up on the Doppler algorithm. So, again, something to be very mindful of as we're looking at things, as we're just tracking them here in the weather situation, with that scenario in the weather center. Again, just trying to keep you guys up to date here. Trying to update you guys here on everything that's happening. So important to stay on top of things. Just always like to be on top of these situations, these inclement situations as they happen. You just got to always be, mindful here of what goes on. Just going through some information behind the scenes here. Again, just looping everything around. Again, you see we had a good number of tornado warnings just west of our covered area out in the Florida Panhandle. But we had the one right around Tallahassee that was that cause for concern earlier on. And we had a tornado watch in play go from about 3 a.m. all the way to 2 p.m. And at the end of that sequence, we had quite a bit go on around Tallahassee with a tornado warning with wind damage reports. Not necessarily a tornado. Can't guarantee that it wasn't one as of this point, but my thinking is there was probably not. But you had quite a few wind damage reports. We didn't see a debris signature on Doppler, and being so close to the radar, I feel we would have probably seen one if we had something touch down there. Power outage numbers aren't indicative of anything too crazy, but you did have, just because of the population density there, again, a good number of wind damage reports. So, because I can always see them in other areas there, and they sometimes, want to be honest, at a cost and issue right in the metro because there's just so many people there. So that's why we had that, that red box, people taking shelter right there in the metro with a possible tornado earlier. The rotation on radar, at least, was showing up around Thomasville Road as we look at the overall progression of things here with the meteorological situation. So, again, just trying to let you guys know what's going on. Things look weaker. You can kind of tell. We had some of these ones and maybe there are 2 in there for hail indicator earlier on, but as it moved in, we had to still some rotation at times, and that potential here toward the Tallahassee area definitely was something that was worth noting here as we're looking at the overall scenario. I see Susie watching there on YouTube. Yeah, I appreciate you tuning in there as well. Yeah, I try to answer all the questions I can here, when we're on live, just to try to inform you guys, the viewers, because sometimes, I'm maybe locked in on one thing, and then you guys might be looking at something else, on your hyper local level here across the 38 counties. There can be a lot that goes on, but, normally I try to get to the questions. So just, keep them coming here, and I try to keep you guys safe and informed, and I appreciate every single one of you guys here for tuning in with the coverage this afternoon. So, again, just trying to, keep you guys informed. It's 2:51 p.m. on this May 7th, 2026. It's a Thursday. I'm meteorologist Casey Cloud here in the Weather Center. Hopefully we see these warnings go away here soon, but with these warnings on the board, I don't want to let coverage go yet here as we're looking at the situation. They look pretty, Tallahassee radar is going to make them look worse, but even the Moody radar, they're not looking all that, organized here. We have a little bit lower humidity. It's somewhat a lot lower in some of these spots. There's not even a lot of wind showing up here. Sometimes you don't need a lot of, the moisture. Once that decays, you can still get a little bit of that, wind to really surface, get down to the surface there, that down to the surface base. But again, let me see what I can show on some of the satellite imagery this afternoon. We're going to go over to the visible satellite here. You can see some clearing toward like Alachua and Putnam and Marion and Flagler. We'll see if that gets anything going. But severe weather, you need about over 60 in general. Well, you still have some of that down there, but it was closer to 70 further up. And let me get another look here. Let me get another look. The water vapor, I mean, you have some of that there. But I mean, let's go back 4 hours. You had quite a bit colder cloud tops here. We had quite a bit of damage reports to west of our area there, north of Chipley. Several trees reported down and the like, but you can see we don't have as cold of cloud tops now. Still got a warning out here that could threaten Blakely next little bit. So, we're not doing coverage, for Blakely anymore with our upgrades and, hyperlocal coverage going. We've seen a good bit of rain, by the way, 1 inch or so in the light blue plus, dark blue a little less than that. In some areas of not rain at all, but you can kind of see here as we track things, watch that progressing up toward Blakely maybe next little bit. Just giving you a heads up now if you happen to be watching from there. But we've had these winds here today. Let me go ahead and pull up the temperatures again. We've actually dropped a good little bit here. It used to start down 85. Double check that. It's still 91 at Keystone, but hyperlocal weather situations here can evolve on you. Yeah, no, out there, as we're looking at things, I know Susie talking about here, just seeing all the hurricane situations out there lately. We're Madison County. Yeah, definitely something we don't want to be seeing out there again, ever. I mean, definitely won't rain. Of course, you'll have them sometimes, but those were two of the most powerful, really going back on record for that area. Dahlia and Helene here, 2023, 2024. I mean, just crazy to have them back-to-back years after not really having much out there for decades in that part of the region. So that's why you always got to be prepared. That's why you always got to be prepared here as we're looking at the overall situation. I mean, I'm not talking about just there. I'm talking about I'm thinking of the first coast here, because last time we've had a storm just completely, overwhelming for Jacksonville and the like, and St. Augustine was Hurricane Dora. I think we just lost our warnings, by the way, which would be great news. Looks like Jacksonville and Tallahassee might have, gone ahead and agreed, at 3 o'clock, Tallahassee's dropping theirs, and Jacksonville has canceled theirs. So, yeah, kind of the trends we've been following, things are ramping down. So we'll wrap soon, but let me just get to that graphic I was going to show you guys here real quick. We'll probably go another few minutes to close to the top of the hour and then wrap. But this is, a graphic. I mean, Idalia would have been a lot of these, places here, storm of record from 1950 through 2023, but then Helene went up that. And then I'm saying about Dora, though, I mean, Stark to some degree, we had Irma, but, we're really overdue here. I mean, it might not be this year. It might not be for 50 years. I mean, you just don't know. But one day we'll have a storm, really powerful that really, causes problems like what we had with Helene out toward Madison County and Taylor County, Lafayette County, Dixie, all that area in there. You get the idea. It's a situation here that we got to be, ready, because I mean, it's terrible what happened to you guys out there toward Madison County and the like, and toward the coast, and, out toward the first coast, actually, there is more population. So if we had a hurricane like that hit right, like what Dora did, but more like Helene's strength, it would be, it'd be the worst weather we've ever had around here, to be quite honest. I mean, we had a hurricane in the late 1800s around Fernandina Beach, but we've had so much population growth here. I mean, it's still terrible what happened out there. I'm not trying to downplay it out toward the Swanee River Valley. I mean, Idalia, because the area, not being as populated, it didn't actually get its name retired. So it's actually going to be back in the cycle in 29. But Helene, obviously everything it did from our area up north, to the Carolinas, it's retired. But, if you have a storm like that hit the East Coast, even on Idalia, or even less than that, it probably would have been, because of just all the, extra damage it would do, because there's more buildings, more, structures that would be in trouble here. But Dora was the only hurricane there to hit there in the 1900s, directly from the Atlantic onto the first coast there. in northeast Florida. I mean, we've had plenty of Gulf storms. We've had tropical storms. Beryl in 2012, Memorial Day storm. It was almost a hurricane there in May, but we haven't had any direct landfalls other than Dora in the 1900s. In the this 21st century here, we haven't had any direct landfalls on the first coast. In that period, as hurricanes, except for Dora heading in St. Johns County in 1964. Now, the late George Winterland was on top of that. He was, so great in so many ways, and he called that based on looking at some pressure patterns here. He used some military experience, I would say, just to kind of, that meteorology experience he learned at FSU, and, just, in the classroom there and the like, and to be able to understand, and be able to inform the viewer and warn the viewer of that impending danger. So, just so important there as we're looking at things and as we're tracking things. This is a graphic here that is subjective, but it's something I just think is important to talk about here. Colleen, the vulnerability out toward like Madison County and, Taylor County, Suwannee County. I mean, you saw what happened after Adalia. I showed you guys that damage, and we had more after Helene. I mean, most of it's been, cleaned up. There's obviously going to be a spot here or there that's, one little spot, and maybe it causes a power outage or something. So, folks do the best they can. But again, just gotta be very mindful here as we're tracking things. Things can just be very tricky with the overall meteorological storyline for sure. I see 161 customers in the dark right now in Suwannee County. You have a 25 out in Madison County, 592 out in Leon County now. As we're looking at the numbers, and this graphic, by the way, includes our old area. Of course, I haven't updated this. We have a lot, exciting plans for you guys here in the weeks to come with upgrades. But, this graphic here, I probably won't, necessarily have an update because it'd just be trimming counties out, and just talking about the 38 that we still cover. But I think it's a very helpful graphic here. We didn't have a lot last season, so we had a lot of time extra to be able to do something like this here. Went through every single county's record trying to get an idea. I mean, some of these are tropical storms. I mean, not in our area now, but Alberto in 94 was terrible. My late, paternal grandmother, they had to drive like 50 miles out of the way around Albany just to get around there because of the overall situation there with all the flooding. Flooding. I mean, we had 2012 Debbie. That was a big flood event. Could have, we needed the rain, but we don't want an overwhelming flood event with El Nino coming. I mean, I don't know if it'll happen in the tropics or if we'll just get, a lot of storms in the fall and, winter with rain and fronts and stuff like that, severe weather. But, if we have flooding events, obviously with the drought we've been in, and, that wouldn't be good either. We don't want to make it all fall at one time. So it's just important to kind of keep in mind here as we're looking at things and as we're tracking. Again, this is subjective. I mean, there's no way to just go one, by one with this one characteristic, like the wind, because, tropical cyclones are faceted with multi-hazards there, multiple hazards. I mean, it's that week we're always aware, and this is expected to be a below average season, but we could have a storm, an early storm like Debbie 2012, Beryl 2012. I mean, that's really early near Memorial Day, but, a storm like that, this could be impactful. I mean, Debbie 2012 was a big deal. Debbie 2024, some ways it's a bigger deal, some ways it wasn't. It had flooding hazards with it, too. It was a quicker moving event for our area. Overall, it didn't last for days and days where we got like 15 or 20 inches, like Debbie 2012, which is a tropical storm. A lot of folks already forget about Debbie 2012. Crazy to be hit by two Debbies that had a pretty big impact here in our area, both in the last 15 years. But again, looking at the Doppler now, it's 3:01 p.m. the time. You can see how things are winding down. The echoes on the Doppler look weaker and weaker now. So that's why the warnings are no longer in play. As we're looking out there toward the surrounding River Valley, you see some, a little bit of wind enhancement there west today, but not looking like much. Still maybe some gusty winds may make it to Lake City, maybe 45 miles an hour. Baker County, Bradford, probably just be some rain coming in. We need the rain. We have that, fire weather warning, red flag warning, the purple here, pink, whatever you want to call it here on the map out there to the east. And you have toward Tallahassee there, some lightning sun up around Midway again, but not severe weather. It doesn't look like. No advisory there. It looks like even did away with that warning in Alabama now. I'm surprised by that a little bit because I was seeing some signs that had reports of hail with it. So you can tell back further west. But then we have this significant advisory here. This is the only one we have left for an advisory. Gets to 40. We'll watch it just to make sure something doesn't all of a sudden spin up on here. But kind of with data, we'll be watching Lauraville, McAlpin, O'Brien. But that's nothing too crazy. So I think we're good to wrap coverage for now. We'll be back late tonight. I don't know if we'll keep the logo red or not for the weekend. We may, because, there are some rain chances. I'll have to look at the model to see if we have enough for maybe a slight risk potential. There is a marginal risk tomorrow on that Friday that gets down toward the Stark area. So be watching that. We'll be tracking that here in the Weather Center. Of course, with that full update late tonight. So I do hope you guys tune in for that. As we look at that forecast, that 7-day forecast, including that, Mother's Day weekend here. So, again, I'm just trying to give you guys the very latest here as we're looking at the overall scenario. You can see how Storm Axon has gone on through there. With the modeling, it's not exactly right, but I'm gonna go to the extended. I hate to do this on the fly. Let me just take that off for a second and see if do we have 18Z in here? Yeah, no, it's not quite loading in here. So I'm going to go into tomorrow because if you guys are wondering, early tomorrow afternoon, maybe some development, maybe Marion County, but you never know because models aren't even handling what's going on right now. Great. They sow to decay, but then as you get later tomorrow, maybe some storms around the evening, 7 o'clock, maybe Bradford County, Alachua, but it could be displaced. It could be in Clay and Putnam or Columbia and Gilchrist. You just never know. You see, it looks pretty nasty in Palatka there. 9 o'clock tomorrow night, maybe it's severe warning. We'll see. And then we have some more action that might make its way in on that early Saturday in the wee hours. But let's go to the other model one. It's the NAM high res, which isn't a great model sometimes. It's like sewing nothing. As I back it up, I have to scrub here to get some stuff during the day, but it's not really sewing it at night. So this is all highly conditional. And while we didn't turn the logo red up until, this morning, didn't turn the logo red in the first place because there's so much, uncertainty. We had that in Mississippi, and sadly, it was terrible out there last night with tornadic activity, tornado emergencies in play. The confidence didn't, really ramp up until it was really turning into something bad. We're not expecting that around here. Today was probably the highest severe threat, but we'll refine that here because, day by day, there'll still be some potential here. Look, this is, I'm scrubbing. You probably I'm not going to have the timestamps on. We'll have something soon when we have timestamps on and all the upgrades, which will be really, really helpful. But 2 p.m. tomorrow here, so some stuff on this model, the NAM lower res. So we'll have to just kind of be mindful of all that. I'll be watching all that here just to see if we get some development. Again, we'll just be paying attention. There's still some lightning around, but we don't have the warnings anymore. So I feel pretty comfortable wrapping coverage for now. Again, we'll pop back in if we need to here as we give you guys the very latest information. We're trying to let you guys know what's going on as conditions warrant. Look how warm it is down toward like Southern Flagler and Volusia. In Volusia County, they're in the mid-90s with their ratings. We've dropped a little bit here. I know, the different microscale details. You have some of this Gatston, coming on in, cooling off some. The humidity's gone up some here east of Stark as well, a good little bit. So that's good. But again, we're going to be watching things. We're going to be tracking things here in the Weather Center as conditions warrant. But we're going to be going ahead and wrapping up coverage with that tornado warning around the 1:30 hour around Thomasville Road with some rotation that we were watching. I know I see around Orlando somebody watching there, and they're just definitely mindful of everything. Just appreciate everybody tuning in here and trusting me on this Thursday, this May 7th, 2026. I've been on for a while, getting a little wore out, so I guess it's time to wrap things up. And I see Elisa watching. I appreciate you tuning in there as well. Just thanks so much here for watching the coverage, everybody out there, as we've looked at things, as we've tracked things here over the last few hours. Make sure you hit that subscribe button over on YouTube if you haven't done so already, and you like this video here. Some more people, see this in the future. Subscribe. You'll see more coverage from me in the future as well. So I know you can see stuff toward the Carolinas, there, marine warning, activity. Not seeing marine warnings around here, but again, I appreciate everybody watching. Looks like about 35 right now. watching. I see somebody in Tallahassee, and we have people like Elisa around Tallahassee watching, another viewer, and it looks like Tallahassee watching there as well. And just appreciate everybody there. We had a little bit of wind damage around Tallahassee today that we were talking about there, with some of the storm reports coming in. Not necessarily so far any sign of a tornado that actually touched down or anything like that, but we did have trees reported down on Old Bainbridge Road near Danesboro Drive and Fred George Road. A tree reported down on North Monroe Street. Trees reported down there on North Meridian Road, around the Orchid Pond area, and then Governor Square Mall area. A couple trees down, and then electrical lines down on Olson Road and Raymond Deal. A lot of these, not overwhelming reports. A population density plan roll. We had some trees down in Gatston County as well, around Quincy and around that county. Not anything too much otherwise in the area that I've seen. We did have that fire situation we've been watching in Lafayette County too, that shut down schools today with that fog smoke combination. That was a cause for concern in the early morning. So, we're going to be watching all that, watching pretty fire danger. That might be a reason. I hope not. But, it could, if we get something really crazy with that, we might have to jump back in here if we get something over the first coast with that over the next little bit. Not necessarily thinking we're going to have to jump back in with any severe warnings here today, but we'll continue. We'll continue to watch. We'll continue to track everything here, and we'll be back here if the conditions require. Otherwise, we'll be back with that late night update. You have crazy weather there, Jeffrey watching there over on YouTube. You have fire weather and the tornado warning all on the same map here. Tornado warning for Tallahassee. Well, we had a fire weather warning still due for out there toward Jacksonville, and the red flag warning. So that'll do it for now. Thanks for tuning in, trusting me, and just stay safe out there. Some of these areas with some of that pond in the water on the roadway, still lightning lingering, and we have a little bit of that, thunderstorm action out toward Taylor, out toward Lafayette, Madison, Suwannee, Hamilton counties. Some of that'll be kind of lingering in toward Columbia here, with maybe a little bit of gusty wind action, but not overwhelming. But just stay safe, and whenever thunder roars, you definitely want to go indoors and stay indoors until, it's been about 30 minutes since you've heard that last clap of thunder. So very important to keep all that in mind, but enjoy the rest of your day.